What kind of stuff do you have to do in the morning? Like, you'd mentioned you got like some animals and stuff you got to take care of.
Yeah, so the morning gets a little hectic, I'll be honest. About half of the week I sleep in. When I can sleep in, I will. Sorry, my chair is really creaky. I might go get another one. It's like I don't know, it's an antique.
It looks epic.
It's cool. That's why I bought it, but it's really loud. Yeah, I used to have a lot of trouble with, I might go sit. I might just sit, okay, if I just sit back, it'll be quiet. Because I know it's loud in the audio. Yeah, like I used to freak out. Even at the beginning of the year, I would freak out that I needed to get up at 5 a.m. every morning or I was not a productive human being. And like the thing about 5 a.m. is I used to work really early in the morning when I like was forced. This was like totally out of my ballpark. I did not want to get up this early. But like when you work in DC, you have to get up really, 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 really early. And it's not so you can have like this glamorous morning routine. It's like the city has started. Work has started. And so it's like the sun is rising and none of the world is up yet. And they are. And then New York is. And so I had experienced these like towns that would move before the sun even came up. And it's so peaceful to do everything before the world wakes up. And so like I would keep trying to do this and I would really guilt myself when I couldn't do it. And like just I could not chug along at 5 a.m. And I was like, damn, should you even be a coach? Like you get really guilty if you sleep in, and what I had realized more with just studying random stuff is like not only, and I had a few friends that really had helped me, get settled with this. Your sleep comes from not only you, but your like epidemiology, your ancestors, and it comes from all these sorts of places. And then also if your nervous system has been out of regulation for so long, like it's pretty hard to keep a consistent rhythm. And like, we know that it's really good. It's really good to have kids in a normal, tight schedule because that's how like they behave best.
Yeah,
but
the
a lot of
structure
us
is
didn't
so good
have
for
that like do 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 right, and like that calm do 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 do, and so it's like, how do you expect yourself to do that? It's literally a learned practice, and that took a lot of weight off of me. And now I get up decently early half the time. If something keeps me up, or if like I'm doing work in here or whatever, that's fine. Whatever, I'll sleep in. Like when you can get into a flow state, you just do it, like you don't really argue that one. But the mornings usually start, if I get up on time, the mornings start at like 6.
Nice.
That's kind of the earliest I'll go.
Yeah.
And this didn't used to be like this. I used to have clients at 5 a.m. I used to like torture myself, making myself do this. And then I would have this giant gap for 12 hours and then I would go do it again at night. And then I would just like, I would just be exhausted.
Right.
But now a lot of my clients, they're away from the mornings, which is really nice. So I can focus on all online in the mornings and just kind of like have the animals, do some meditation, do some stuff. But in order, it goes, I'll get up, do whatever I got to do first. And then I'll meditate. I'll do breath work and then I'll meditate. And if I know if I'm tired or if I'm like just kind of not really feeling it, I'll do 10 minutes at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Just 10 minutes. Because like, if you can't do that, you don't want it enough. And that's really hard for some people. It's like, it's hard to sit still. I can't stand it. I don't want to. You know what I mean? I get it. But it's as torturous as you make it. And so I'll sit there. Like this morning, I only did 10 minutes of each. And it's fine. I think like, it's not some one session that's going to change your life. Like it's just,
Yeah, it's the habit over time for sure.
Yeah. And that because you would see like even just the kind of coaching that we've done of a difference, when I had met you as a coach, like I wasn't working out. Like I came from powerlifting and I was super, super strong. But I mean, I wanted to try new things, but like, you kept trying to tell me too, like, oh yeah, just like come in once a week. Just like, just get it in once a week. Just get it in. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm trying. And I was, but like, it takes a lot of energy to get momentum going and to like start. And most people just like don't continue. They just start.
Yeah, it's just, well, there's always just like a war in your mind, even if there's something like, you're already adept at training, but with regards to maybe trying something new, it's just like, well, I already do this and da 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 da, and like there's a million reasons why not to, and it can happen for the simplest things. I also used to put a lot of pressure on myself to get up at 5 a.m. And it was kind of around COVID times, but I would wake up at 5 a.m. and I was like, okay, what you need to do is you need to do an ab circuit, and you're not allowed to drink water because you because
Dude, the
and
things
it
we
sounds,
come up with too.
yeah, it sounds crazy, but it's like I thought I was weak in my mind. And so in
Yeah.
my head it's like, you're gonna wake up at 5, you're gonna do this ab circuit. And I had this little like um just super basics like stance and basic punches like boxing routine that I would do
Mhm.
for like 5 minutes. And so we're talking like 10, 11 minutes in the morning. And then you can drink water and you can read a book until
So
it's time to
funny.
actually go work out. And it was the hardest thing because sometimes I would wake up and I would just be like doing this. I'm like, why are you doing this? And it's like because you're weak in the mind. And
Because you
like,
need it.
yeah. And so eventually I kind of stopped doing that. But I, as dumb as that sounds, there was some utility
Oh,
in
so much.
doing that. But I realized I didn't have to do that
Yeah.
to be a disciplined person as well. I
Yeah.
just thought I was lacking discipline. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to do the most balls to the wall things I can think of.
Start
Uh,
right when you wake up. Yeah. No, I think that's really important to understand that people, like, there's a couple things there. One, actually, and I do want to mention this, there's not a lot of science behind this. And I don't really care to do the research just because this is one of those things that I just kind of know works. But it goes along
sure.
with momentum. And actually, someday I probably will do the research just so for all the nerds that sit there and tell me like, there's nothing behind this. Like, just go do it. Just go try it consistently, and then tell me the different.
Hmm.
Working out and moving right in the morning will give you more energy. Well, it gives. I'll say this. It gives me more energy, and rather than working out in the afternoon or like whenever you have your most energy, if you work out then, you actually, I feel depleted after. If I do it right in the morning, like the whole day, even if I'm just coasting later, like the whole day is just kind of up from there with
Oh,
energy.
I'm the exact same way.
Yeah.
If I can work in the morning, I will.
Yeah.
If I have to do it in the afternoon, that's fine. But
Yeah.
you've already had like more food as well, so I feel just
Mhm.
like a little bit more lethargic.
Yeah, I really like working out fasted. A
Yeah.
lot of
Oh,
people,
love it.
and I don't mean like, we'll get into fasting later. That's a whole
Hmm.
other topic. That's very taboo. A lot of that, but the momentum thing with, oh, I can't remember what I was going to tell you, but you get up in the morning and you do it before you start your momentum for the day. Oh, the suffering. A lot of people think, and I don't get me wrong, I totally followed this for a long time and it was ridiculous. I could tell you some of the most ridiculous routines. I could tell you nobody's a bigger bully to me than me. Like,
Yep, for
and
sure.
that's how we all are, like especially those of us that are coaches, because you do have a moral obligation and like an obligation in you to be everything that you're asking them to do. This is like, don't get me wrong. I understand some people are just on their journeys and like some people have it's a little bit more rocky. And I'm not saying like this is one size fits all. This is all black or white, but like an unfit coach should not be a coach. Dude, I'm sorry. It can't happen. You can know all of the textbooks. You can know all of, like, trust me, I was there for a long time too. You can know everything. But like if you don't walk that walk, that is silly. For why? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
you
performance
know,
matters.
it's hard because it's like we have dips in it, but like even in all of our dips, in coaches dips that are like truly in this, like we're walking this, you're choosing other healthy things. You're not like, even if you're not like working out consistently all the time, or those 2 hours a day where like some of us just work out, or like even you do it during classes. You used to do it during
Mhm.
classes. So like, or we're walking all day long. We're doing things. We're spotting people. We're carrying their weights. Like even we're moving. And so many of us. I won't speak for all of them. So many of us coaches that do this, where we have this like movement dip, we choose so much healthier things outside of it. And so it's
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
but a lot of people do get stuck in that whole like, dang, I'm not making all the good choices, so like I don't deserve to be a coach. And it's like, no, 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 no. You got to figure out like one, what you're missing and why you're missing it, and you got to figure that out soon. But like, you don't need to be perfect all the time. You just need to somewhat, at least in a few places, like be consistently walking that walk. But
Yeah.
people that just refuse to like, you know what I mean, make good choices for themselves, like that's crazy.
Oh, 100%. And well, like once you start to build a little confidence and you have been walking the path for a bit, if you have like a day off of exercise or something, like there's probably a reason. Like
Mhm.
hopefully you've begun to prioritize and execute and you're like, okay, well, I can't work out today because I have stuff to do. Like,
Yeah,
working out is a bit of a
I do
privilege
have a life.
sometimes. Yeah, life happens. I've got to, whether it's take care of the yard or I've got a bunch of work to do or kid stuff, like, whatever it is, there's probably a reason. And so, like, if you're like, oh, I didn't work out today, it's like, well, did you like skip your workout or were
Yeah,
you getting after it in another way,
yeah,
and having the ability to discern, which of those options you took, I think
yeah.
is hugely important.
People, the reason why I feel like people kind of skip this and why I did for a long time of like what I mean by that, like skip it, is like I would just kind of just make this decision. Like I would be like, you walked a lot today, don't work out. You like,
Hmm.
but I would feel really tired, and like I would feel like I would just be, all the energy was out of me by the time I got home. And so I would make that decision really, really quick instead of sitting there and thinking about it and be like, could you just stretch? Could you just move? Could you get your blood into another place? Like, can you just move the lymph system? Like, can you do anything for your body other than like just go sit in the shower?
Hmm.
And a lot of people, one, I don't think go further into that choice because they don't know that they have other options. And if they do know that they have other options, like those other options are either they don't know them well enough to just kind of like break into them, or they don't really want to do it. Like they know it's there, but they don't really want to do it. It's like people that have home gyms. Dude, I had a home gym for like 4 years. Dude, it's so cool. It's so nice. And I was so proud of this. And it sits there. Like it's been in four different garages, five different, four different garages in one office. And like, man, I've probably used it 90 times.
Hmm.
That's silly. That's crazy. But you just don't, when you don't want to do it, dude, you don't want to do it. And like, but like I said, like people just don't know they have other options. They aren't confident enough in those options. And I will give them that. Like some people could really get hurt trying to just kind of do things on their own.
Oh, for
But
sure.
there's plenty of information out there, dude. There's so many, like, you can literally, this is crazy about social media and the time that we live in. You can find any amount of information. That
Literally
is
anything.
absorbent, like resource. You can find not only resources for like the truth, like what is like, biomechanics and like how this works the correct way,
Yep.
what works over, like what's worked over time. You can find the history of it. You can find where it came from. You can find, and not only that, you can find it from like so many different perspectives. It's so not, and like,
Well, yeah, there's online communities that will even shift
oh,
through the data for you and be like, "Oh yeah, this person what
yeah,
started
yeah.
off credible and now they're
You'll
not,"
literally just
or
get the people or
yeah.
like where the information's coming from, which is, I think that's really cool. I think that's also really dangerous sometimes too. Like if it
Oh,
can
definitely.
be helpful, it can also be dangerous.
Hmm.
But like a lot of people in their fitness journey or wellness, what I do see is like they're asking for permission. They're not actually, like, they are asking you how to do this. They do need to know how to do this, most of them. Even if they were like you've had prior college athletes, current athletes in other sports, like
Hmm.
you can still be athletic and then like still be new to something that's athletic.
Oh,
And
definitely.
but like they will like need the permission that they can do this for themselves.
Yep.
And it's like as soon as you give them that, like, hey, I'm not that special. Like, you kind of do have to sometimes knock yourself down to like help them understand like we are equal.
Mm-hmm.
But so many people will see their physical limitations and like all these limitations, all these mental limitations. Like, they'll, there's so many of why they can't do anything, and they literally like this is their life. And as soon as you kind of start like picking things off of them, and you're like, hey, ding dong, like, woo, over here, like, that was me. It's okay. I am excited. I'll get to a point where I'll do this pretty soon here, but like, just recently have I started to be comfortable posting me and not like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's because it's hard when the whole community is like out there, and that's what draws everyone in. And it's not that like they're bad for it, but I know how people look at them. And I know to what stands like the credibility drops when there's certain things and certain avenues on how you're marketing. And like there's a difference between being a $10,000 a month business and like $1 million a month business.
Yeah,
And
big difference.
you can't do this one for long if you're sitting there using that as your only marketing, And so like I got so scared of that, and I got so scared of like, oh my God, I don't want people to see me. Like, no bikinis, no nothing. Like, you're a mother. And it was so silly. It was such a silly set of fears. And like, don't get me wrong, I do appreciate myself for like trying to at least, help myself there and like secure myself and guard myself, but like there's nothing, it's okay, it's not a big deal. And so as soon as I'm a little bit more ready to post this one, dude, I have a picture of me at 189 pounds. I'm 5'3". That is crazy.
That's wild.
That's crazy. And what's even crazier is the amount of time that I gained that weight. Dude, it's
Mm-hmm.
fast. Yeah, the weight, most people think I've never been fat, and dude, I can't wait. I can't wait to just be like, by the way, I do show all of my clients that, like, all my women, I'll be like, hey, this was me. Like, please don't feel like this is you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that really helps them. But like, I will end up doing, I just can't, I've written the caption 1,000 times over for this. And it's every time I'm like, that's so corny. People aren't going to understand what you're saying. Like, it's because it's corny, but like, it's true.
Well, I think that's the thing with like when things become corny or cliche, but they're true. It's like someone might read that and they might think it's corny or cliche, but just because they don't know how authentic you're being, like, does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Where like, oh, well, this is so corny and cheesy. Well, it's like, it's maybe you've heard it a bunch of times. And so you think it's corny or cheesy, but if it's expressed honestly, then it can also be true. And
Yeah.
that can be challenging. Well, before we get any further, would you want to just, because we've been talking about some awesome shit and I don't want to go any further without introducing you, because people are just like, they're like, what? This is a cool conversation, but who is this person? So you just want to introduce yourself and give a little descriptor, and then we can just dive right back in.
Yeah. All right. So I'm Coach Isabella. I'm a holistic human performance coach. I run two companies. I have been a coach for about 6 years, and the first three were all part time. First four were all part time. And I had wanted to be a coach for, I want to say since I was a kid, but I don't really think so. I think I wanted to train animals when I was younger.
Okay.
Um, I was a horse girl, but I wasn't like, I didn't get to have horses. So I was just like the one reading books. Um, but
Gotcha.
I think I
Fantasizing.
really wanted to do like animal or equestrian training when I was younger. And I want to say for some time I want to be a personal trainer, but I don't think that actually came until later. But I do remember I was working in DC, and an awesome opportunity. And I had no idea where I was going to go. I knew that I was going to go to college for psychology.
And you
And
lived in DC?
I did. I lived in DC for, let's see, 2017 to late 2019.
And
So,
was this after you lived in California?
yeah, so I grew up in California. Right dead smack in the middle in the agricultural heart of America. And a lot of people get really mad when I say that. There's states that have like giant crops, and I understand that. But I grew up in a really, I don't know if it's still like this. This could be totally different. I don't like to pay attention to California politics. I don't want anything to do with it. But I did grow up in a really cool time where it was like right before a lot of chemical fertilization started, and big corporations kind of like were barely poked in for a few years. But we had California cows. At that time, we grew a third of the world's produce. And
Okay.
so I grew up, like, my mom is a NICU nurse, and has had her fair share of health issues. And my dad has the same. I'll just be honest. My dad has struggled with alcoholism his whole life, but he is so healthy, which is so crazy to me. But it totally makes sense. And it's like, so even these very unhealthy people, with what they were choosing for themselves, were very healthy because of the food they were eating.
I
And so, like,
understand. Okay.
I watched, like, when you watch, the biopsychosocial, the whole model, before even knowing what that is, and then you can, like, clearly see, oh my God, one of the only things that's healthy in their life is, like, this food. Dude, you're gonna know, like, that food is good. And you know that because, like, I would see, even though we had so much produce, like strawberries straight up as big as, like, my mom's hand when I was little, which is literally
Awesome.
the size of my hand. Artichokes that were, like, as big as my head. Like, we just had avocado. That's where I grew
Gotcha.
up. It's really cool. I was really lucky to have traveled, California State all growing up. I almost, like, didn't really leave California, and I had this thing that I thought I would never leave California when I grew up. And then before I even turned 18, I had gotten an internship in New York, and I went and worked for some bankers. And I was working for the wife, and I was her personal assistant. And I was trying to, like, just kind of see how this high level of money worked, and I was just kind of willing to learn anything, and I just wanted anything different than what I had known. And so I went in the heart of New York City, and I stayed there for about 5.5 months and worked for the most particular person in the world. And but it's good. It teaches you discipline, and it also teaches you that, like, no, what I really took out of that was, like, even everything that I saw in New York, no matter how much money you have, dude, that does not make happiness. It helps. It really does help, but, like,
Uh-huh.
nothing. Not from their kids, not from them, like, not a speck of their life was happy and, like, content and just, like, and they lived in probably a $30 million apartment. The dude made deals for billions of dollars, like, just this exuberant amount of money, and not one lick of them was happy. And so I knew that being that rich didn't have to be like that. I just knew that, like, oh, okay, so, like, I don't have to taste that anymore. Like, that's cool. Like, if it comes, it comes, but, like, you don't need money. Like, you probably should make a decent amount, but, like, you don't need it.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good lesson to learn. How old were you when you kind of
I
had that
just turned
realization?
18.
Oh, cool. That's great.
Like to the dot. Like, I had to wait. Actually, I got the job because I'd been putting out my resumes for quite a while, just to anything, dude. And I've always known. I don't really know where I learned this, and I would love to track it back to, like, who taught me this, or, like, how I learned it. But if you want to learn how to be the best, like, you got to go to the best, and you just have to be willing to be like, I'm a little idiot. Please teach me your ways. You know what I mean? You
Oh
have
yeah.
but I think it's easier for people to do that to, like, people that are super, especially me, as young as I was super removed from this group of people in my head. Like, I was nothing the same of them. They were way up here and I was way down here. And so it was really easy for me to just let all ego go and be like, you're the best at what you do, or you are, like, the top of the world or whatever. Let
Mm.
me go and learn, And so I did that with quite a few people. And I was really glad that I did this because I didn't feel like it really distracted me from what I was trying to learn, and I didn't feel like I was, like, scared of anything. But I only worked for women. That was a big thing that I would make sure, because I didn't want all the horror stories that I had ever heard just because I was going to be working for some politicians, or I was going to be, like, working close to, Wall Street or whatever. And, the guy that I worked for, his wife, he worked in the I'll just say a couple buildings away from Trump Towers in New York. And like that's where I started. And so then I was like, okay, you can compose yourself enough to learn from these people and like do a good job. What else can you do? So that ended, and I was actually really relieved that it did. New York was too expensive to go to school. It was just too like there was no way of life. I mean, you're literally a pack rat there. And like, I love New York. I hope to, one day have a little like place in the city. I do love New York, but like, it is not a way to, in your growing years, to like really form. Like you're really,
Okay.
you can be a personality there, like, and no one cares what you do. Actually, nobody wants anything to fucking do with what you're doing. Like people on the street there are so like, they just get out of their way. And that's a good lesson to learn too, because like when you're real young, if you are brought up with a lot of love, you're taught to like, everything is about you and like the world revolves around you and like this and that.
Sure.
That is good to know. It is, that's something that everyone needs to like understand, is that their
Yeah,
world
it's good to feel value.
yeah, like your world does revolve around you.
Mhm.
But I was really happy to like experience the excusing New Yorkers, because it reminds you of like how small you are on the spectrum of this collective. And it's, this collective experience that's going on is like, you're this big. And like, what's cool and what I love to know now is like, no matter if you're a giant like player in those big industries, you're still this big. And it's nice, dude. It's nice to experience that kind of stuff. So anyway, I moved back down to California, and my grandpa was real sick. My grandma had died. That's really why I didn't care to stay there too. It was like I was doing college over there, and I did have a really good job. And I actually got a job right across the street from where my grandma was in the hospital for about 8 months. And so I was like, I had my grandparents there. I still had my dad, and I was going to college, and I was just kind of chilling. I had, a few good friends. And, but my grandma had passed away. And I think that I knew what was coming next. Like I knew my grandpa would die.
Mm-hmm.
I've always known that you could die from a broken heart. Like even from a young age, people just think that's like a crazy thing that your emotions can affect your body that much. But like, I've always known that. And I knew that kind of love, he was going to die very soon after. And I was actually really proud of him for how long he lived after her. It was only about 4 years, but anyway,
That's still considerable.
It is. It is.
Yeah, some people fade way quicker.
We found a puppy right before she got sick, and
Game changer.
It was like in his toolbox outside, and he didn't really know what to call him, so he didn't give him a name. My grandpa was like, "You can't have a dog here." Like I was the favorite grandchild on that side, and he was like, "You can't have a dog here." Like all growing up, no dogs, no dogs. Like there's enough neighborhood cats, and my grandma kept birds, and so like she had a lot of birds. She had doves. They're so beautiful, but he didn't want any more animals. And so like we had never had a dog when I was growing up there. And then like as soon as I grow up and I'm like not a little kid anymore, he gets a dog. And I was like, damn it. But like, I'm glad you got one, Mm-hmm. So he gets a little dog, and he wouldn't give it a name. And then he would eat a little bit of everything he ate. And so he started calling it Little Bit, and he wouldn't give it a name because he didn't want to get past
Little Bit.
And so he would just call it, it's the dog's name. My dad has him. The dog's name is still Little Bit. And he's like little sausage roll because he eats a little bit. Like it is bad. It is not great for the dog, but like they do feed him really well. He just eats too much because they like feeding him.
Little bit.
It's cool though. And so I knew my grandpa would decline pretty fast. I thought faster. And so I just thought, well, damn, like, which was really bad of me. I really wish I would have called him more and like been in more contact, but like I didn't want to look at it. My grandpa was my best friend growing up. He actually probably said the least amount of words to me, but like the confidence, like that connection with me, it would just like, it would take one little glance. And dude, I was a wild child. I was bouncing off the walls. I still
I could see that.
And I was Curious George with like the Energizer Bunny's energy and like the wit to figure something out that's a little bit above me, but not too far, and then just like run with it. And like I've always been like this. And my grandpa would have to be like, dude, Like he would never call me dude, but like dude, like dial it in. But he would never wanted to shame me. Everyone else, he watched everyone else like scold me and be like, no, 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 and like stop it. And like people were just really like shaming to me, and he would just kind of let me do whatever, and he would be like, you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
And I
maybe
was like,
dial it up a little bit, dial it in.
yeah, yeah. But it was crazy because like, dude, he wouldn't say a word. And I
Right.
couldn't just do like a lightly paid internship. I needed to do like a job. And I got a call one day and from this agency, and they were like, hey, like basically they want to interview you, send these documents forward. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I did, and then we hopped on a call. And what was crazy and what I was like actually a little scared of was her husband had called me. And I was like, okay. And he was like, hey, like she just doesn't have any time. This is what it is. This is what, this is what it is. And I had no idea who she was before I got there. I hopped off the airplane at DCA, and her brother had picked me up. And dude, he's the funniest person. I wish I could say his name because, like, well, he'll know who he is if he ever listens to any of my stuff. So cool. He was like everybody's hillbilly uncle, and his sister is like the most pristine, upright, like just sharp human being, right? And he's just like
Uh-huh.
couldn't give a shit less of how he presents himself, and like just as smart as her, but like total hillbilly. And so I'm like thinking I'm supposed to be going to work for like these like really high up people, and I'm just like very confused because there's like a hillbilly picking me up, but he's really cool. And so I was
Uh-huh.
like, okay, like, and so I get there. It's like he's totally cool, and I was glad that he picked me up because he was like, this is how this is gonna go, and this is how this could go for you, but this is also how this could go. So like, just know, my sister, here you go, and like her husband, cool, super cool. Don't have to worry about him. And I was like, sick. All right, like I could do this. And you're gonna be around for like ish. And he deployed a lot back and forth, and then he taught a lot of military
Okay.
schools, and so he was like never around. And he had just gotten divorced, and so he just kind of like wanted to travel and do whatever. But he was like, "You can always call me," and I was like, "Okay, cool." And so anyway, I worked in DC for them for an amount of time, and
Doing what?
I was their assistant, and I was like their childcare. And
Okay,
they
cool.
had other childcare, and they had like other people that would work for them, but I was kind of like the filler in of all, and like the house manager, the house do everything, make sure everything is set up, make sure everyone has what they need. And so it was cool. Like I learned some of my biggest lessons in that house, in the quiet of that house. And man, I'll tell you, like being around people that work that high up in government, like you realize too, not only did I kind of like not debunk money, but like debunk that like we all needed money
Hmm.
to be happy at least. But like when people have that much power, people really think, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's people that are like lost in the sauce there. And like
Sure.
they have no idea what's going on consciously. But like the people that are conscious of this, and I do believe that everyone does go into government or does go into federal service or like service like that because they do want to make a positive change. I
Yeah, I
have
think most of them have good intentions, probably.
like all of them. And the problem is like you can get a little bit of money like real early on, but like you don't even get to big money until you're a big player in that. And so most people actually aren't doing it for the money. Most congressmen are really poor, really, really poor. And a lot of people don't realize that. Like we know a few politicians that are like terrible and are just the best at the stock market, but like
Right.
a lot of people are really suffering. And what I will say is like the people that are fighting the good fight there, dude, they're so conflicted. That is some of the heaviest burdens. You've got the free world on your back. And like, not only do you have to be able to keep your emotional intelligence in check, but you've got to be able to do it enough. Most of them have families, so they've got to be
Mm.
able to like come back and have a family. But like, not only that, without wanting to always know, everything that's about to happen or lay out. And like, well, there are levels that like they still don't know, but like you know what's about to happen to the public and like what's really
Yeah, you
happening.
have a lot more access to information for
Mhm.
sure.
And so these people that were like generally went in and were like, hey, I just want to help. Like I have this degree, I have this skill set. Like I want to whatever, you know, I have this reach or I have this money. Like I want to do something for the general public. And then they get there and they can see everything and they're just like, oh my God, like you have no idea how bad it is. And they don't even have to tell you. Like when I say people's eyes are the windows to what is going on, they are so troubled. Like I've seen eyes like this on two people, and I'll save you the story of the other one, but I'll basically just tell you like he was at the highest level of operating that you can be at in the
Uh-huh.
world, and dude, nothing. It's not like nothing that was there. They're both very sweet people, but like, dude, just such a heavy burden, and like I think when people like I won't get too far into politics unless you have questions or like unless you want me to answer anything, I will answer any questions about
Sure.
this. I'm super open about politics, but um people really even people with money, this is not just poor people or people like that are struggling.
Hmm.
People really pit themselves against politicians. And that is such a stupid fucking thing. And like I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get
Sure,
most people
I
are gonna
get
be
the
like, "Have
motivation.
you seen the corrupt?" Oh, I know the corruption. I know. Unfortunately, I know a little too much, and it's very uncomfortable in my chair. But like, what I do understand is that those are the motherfuckers that are gonna help us. Like, those are the only people with any reach. If you really want to talk about the laws, and then if you actually look past that, dude, they have no power. They have no power. And like real power is in money and is in everything that controls, you know, everything. And I won't get too far into that. People are starting to wake up to it without like me having to. I know you used to see on my story that I would see something and dude, it would just irk me. It pissed me off
Sure.
to not say anything. And I would just be like, this is what's going on behind closed doors. You can believe whatever you want down here, but like this is what's happening. And I would point to it all the time. And then I started getting in trouble on Instagram.
What
And
do you
I
mean?
started, and then I started like, okay, like you're gonna get censored. You're gonna, and like, I
Oh,
don't
okay.
really care if I'm censored or not because like I know how to get around it. But at the same time, like, oh, you're barking up a big tree, sweetheart. And I would just remember my grandpa just being like, you know,
Tighten
and,
up.
and I would be like he would be like, it's you, like you're the problem, even though I'm not doing anything that's like inherently bad to tell people like this is the truth. What you're doing is like you're scaring people.
Yeah, stirring the pot a little
You're
bit.
stirring the pot, you're scaring people. And so I had to like lay off of that, and that's really hard for me because I really want everyone to know like truly where the power is and what's going on. But I don't think it's actually necessary. And I think that the longer that like I think it's important to understand that politicians actually have no power, and that they're just people, and that they, while they might have fallen into some really manipulative, you know, scheme going on, where like I won't get into how like this goes down, but basically people go in there pretty good and like well intentioned, and someone gets something of them or something happens, and then like what can they do? And it doesn't sound that easy until you put yourself in their shoes, and then you're like, oh fuck, dude, like I would want to keep my family. I would never want anything to happen to my children. I would never put this burden on my family. Do whatever you want to me. Because those kind of people that are willing to be a part of that giant beast that we call the American political system, dude,
Largest organization on the planet.
there's some there's some brave fucking people. And so like you can imagine they don't want any of that on their family. If
Hmm.
they're like terrible people, they don't care. Like they'll just, you know what I mean? Like they don't care about their family, but like that's not really what
That's not
happens.
the case. People
That's
care
not
about
the
their
case. That's how
families.
they get
Yeah.
manipulated, and that's how they get like brought to do either things that like they usually wouldn't choose to do, or like they just get in sticky situations, dude. And like they're all humans, and they all want the same things as like me and you. Some of them may not want a family, but like they all want to be free. Most of them own farms. Most of them, you know, like they just want to fucking relax at the end of the day. I actually met a real cool person, and I wish I could go into more detail about this, but like met a really, really cool person that created a really cool invention that we use internationally. And it has a lot to do with government, but like I had realized even with them, like the private sector, the public sector, dude, they're all people. They're all just people, and they all want the same things. And it doesn't matter like what you've done. Like you could have a Nobel Peace Prize, dude. You're still a person.
Yeah, well, that was something that it took me a while to understand because like I think a lot of people have this perception when they're kids, but when I was a kid, anytime I would see an adult, I was like, that's a person who knows what's going on. They've got all the answers. They're an adult. They've hit a certain age or they've hit a certain experience level and they've got it together. And then so like we'd be camping and I'd be a kid and I'd see like a parent with their kid on a leash, like tugging on them or like having a scream fit at them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that seems terrifying and I don't like that, but
Yeah.
they must know something I
They must
don't. They're an
know.
adult.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
sure.
And
Yeah.
you just get older and you start to interact with people and all of a sudden you're like, oh, like these are all just people. Like some of them are better at executing than others.
Yeah.
Some of them, but even the high performers still have flaws in their logic, you know, like we all do. And that's not to like diminish their accomplishments
Yeah.
either. It's actually like, despite your flaws, you still achieve this. But
Right.
yeah, it was just that was a lesson that took me a while to kind of figure out was, oh wait, these are just people. They're just trying to make an existence like you. They're just using the information they have available to them to navigate this crazy thing we call life. And they're hopefully just doing their best. And if they're not, well, you know, how am I to know they're not doing their best?
Right.
Like I can't
Well,
step
who am I
into
to judge that?
Yeah, exactly. I can't step into their shoes.
Yeah. There's a lot of mindset behind like the places that I've been and like the people that I've met. Like it's not as simple as, you know, here's how to do the best work and here's how to whatever. And like there wasn't very plain as day lessons that they would teach me. Like maybe when I was real young and maybe when I was like kind of just doing some stupid shit here or there, they would like reel me in and just be like, hey, by the way, like that's not how that works. And that's cool and all, but like really what I learned, that what I've always learned the most from, and I'll tell you how that happened, and it's exactly what you thought about adults when you were little. I started, and don't get me wrong, people get really carried away in this, so it's important to understand. I started to get really analytical myself about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was little, I thought, actually, I remember this argument with my dad, and I don't remember where we were. I think we were camping. My dad's so funny. My dad has the love of Christ. He has almost like, he has like okay patience, especially for children. He has like a lot of patience there. But he gets like, yeah, fast, like just frazzled fast, right? It's like, he just doesn't want, like, it's fucking bullshit. Like, my dad just wants to love everything. He just wants to love. His whole thing is love. And so he would try to teach me these things out of love. And like, he would just get frazzled fast, especially then. And I was arguing with him one day that like he was my parent and his sole job on this planet was to answer. He wouldn't answer a question for me. And if you could imagine me as a child, I'd ask questions just like I do now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I want to know how everything works. I want to know what's going on. I want to know why this is like that. I want to know who put that there, and I want to know why they put it there. Like, what is this thing? What is this? You know, what's this? What is it? And he wouldn't answer a question. And I remember throwing a fit about it. And he was like, I was like, you're my parent. Like, that's your job. Your job is to answer my questions. And he was like, no, it's fucking not. Like, I will, but it's not my job to figure everything out for you. You
right.
need to go look on your own.
100%.
And I was like, and I remember because he was kind of mean about it. And I remember I was like, oh, my dad, like, my loving dad, like, what? And so I don't think what he like, I don't think he ever realized like what that sparked. And because then there was so much autonomy after that of like, okay, I don't need to ask you guys shit. If I see it and I know it, or I feel it, or I smell it, like I know it. And so when you get that, but like a lot of people, they don't get that early on. So like, you know, it doesn't like fester and snowball as much as it has with me. And I think that's actually a good thing. I wouldn't choose a child that young to be that autonomous. I actually feel like I've made my kid a little bit too autonomous as of lately. and there is like a balance there. But you thinking that like the world needs to answer your questions when you're younger, like these adults, they know everything, and then you grow up and you're like, oh whoa, they have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, no wonder they couldn't answer my
No
question.
wonder. Yeah. No, Dad, I know why you were pissed off. Like, I see what was happening there. I
Yeah,
wouldn't have been patient either. I actually probably would have not been as patient as you, you know? And when you can, like, not only one, you can have that empathy for your parents, but, like, you can have that empathy for the world of, like, you're just a human. You're having an individual experience. I have absolutely no idea what you've seen or what you've been through. And when you can like truly understand, which this takes a lot of centeredness, and like I'm not going to sit here and be a guru that can teach you the exact way to do this, but when you can understand that what people are doing to you usually has nothing to do with you. Like,
sure.
I'm not saying not all the time, and I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to people, and I'm not saying you shouldn't analyze their reactions to your actions.
Right. You
But
want to be observant.
I don't think that people really understand. Like, if somebody's mean to you or somebody's like something to you, whatever they are to you, negative in any way, like that is how they feel about themselves. And that has nothing to do with you. And where we get stuck there is like, we'll believe it. We'll believe it.
Right.
Run with it. And then that becomes our internal programming. And I remember early on, I couldn't wait to be a mom. I lost a kid before I had my son, and I just like could not wait to be a mom. I needed that so badly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a pain that anybody should ever go through. I think losing a child is probably amongst like I cannot explain that.
Oh, I'm
I
sure
know that
it's just
there are like
terrible.
gruesome ways to lose people, you know, and I've experienced some of them, but like there's another level to that, and like my heart goes out to any women that have ever experienced that. Dads too, like don't get me wrong, dads too, but like women, they feel it so much differently.
Oh,
And
definitely. I mean,
that is,
when you're the carrier of the life,
that's
it's a
crazy.
different experience.
That I would never, if there's like one thing that I could take from this earth, it would be the pain after losing a child. Like if there's one pain that I could ever just like boom get rid of, it would be that. That crushes people. Like when you give birth to a kid and you can hear it cry after that, I literally, when I tell you I was not in my body at that point, you know what I mean? Because you're just
Uh-huh.
like, oh my God, there's life. Like it's such a relief.
Yep.
So I wanted a kid really bad. I don't remember why I was telling you that, but yeah, like it, I don't remember why I was telling you that, but the, like the pain from it, dude, I wish I could like, from everyone. Like that's a lot. Even
That is
now,
a lot.
I can see like I get kind of stuck in it just thinking about it. Even though I won't get emotional anymore because I know that I'm settled there and like it's okay. I can't handle that, you know. Like I wish I could just take that from all mothers. That sucks, but I do know that I'm very relieved to experience like there is happiness and there's joy after all this loss that I experienced really young. And then also like just seeing the facade of, you know, obviously the richer, the politicians, and like just recognizing no matter what was going on that we're all human and that's it. Uh,
Yeah,
I
100%.
I totally like, and I've had a crazy experience in Fort Bragg. That was really cool. I can tell you a little bit about that after DC. So I had met my ex-husband. He was a casket bearer in Arlington Cemetery,
Yep.
and that was really cool. And super honorable job. Like that was really really cool. And it, don't get me wrong, it crushed him. Like every day he would come home just crushed.
Yeah,
Where
oh, for sure.
like,
It's a dreary job.
you can tell he's still like kind of about it, and like dude, that's hard. Handing a flag over to a little kid, like you got to be real brave to not shed a tear, to not like jerk your face, to not even like have to look away. Like you got to be real brave, and that it's heavy over there, but it's very honorable and it's cool. And the people that carry that for us, like, are very. I'm glad that they're proud of it. You know, like
Hmm.
that is something they should be proud of. And so he went there. He had a choice to. Aaron's the most innocent person. Like Aaron's super cool. I love that my ex-husband and I can get along. And like the only time that we don't get along is when I'm like, you need to do this to be healthier. And he's like, stop telling me what to do. You're not my dad.
That's
Like,
so funny.
I know better. You know, like it's just that. And then he'll just be like, and like that's it, you know, but
Well, that's
um
great that you guys get along. I mean,
Aaron's really cool.
is
I
possible for
knew
sure.
almost immediately that I would always like want to have a kid with Aaron, and I didn't know if we would actually stay together because we live such different lives. Like the dude can't stand animals really, other than the cat. We love our cat Barry. Barry's fucking awesome, but like other than that really cool cat with a really cool personality, like he can't really do animals. And I've got all the chickens, the dogs. My roommate's got dogs. Like we'll just keep getting. I'm gonna get a goat. Like I'm gonna end up when I buy property, I'll get a cow or two. Like it'll just keep going. So every
Yep.
time he like gets kind of mad that our marriage didn't work out, I'm like, you don't live with the farm. It's okay. Be happy. And he's like, fuck, you're right.
Right, right. Because if we're together, there's farm stuff.
I'm not getting rid of him.
Uh-huh.
But no, he's cool, and I'm glad that we get along. But when we had met, like I almost knew that I didn't know if we would work out. Like this was later on, and just because we were so different, but like I knew I wanted to have a kid with him, and
That's so interesting. I haven't talked to
weird
too many people where it's like, regardless of whether we work out, I know I want to create
with
a
this.
hybrid human with you.
What's crazy too is like I wanted to carry his legacy, and I don't mean that in like a selfish way, like so that I could have his legacy. I don't have anything to do with his legacy. Like
Hmm.
his legacy is his own, and actually, more than anything, like I'm teaching him to do it. My legacy and my companies and my like the things that I leave my children, and I don't mean like items. I mean like the lessons and the experience that I leave my
Sure.
children. My legacy is much different than his, but I always knew that I wanted to carry his legacy. And like Aaron is just the sweet. He's got the same love as my dad. I mean, you know, we literally repeat the mistakes until we like learn them. And I married my
Hmm.
dad. Struggles with the same thing. And thank God he like does a lot better, and it's not like far down. But
Hmm.
uh, like has always struggled with his health, even though he just has the like all the love in the world for everyone. But that's why he struggles with his health. Uh,
Hmm.
but I knew that I would want to do that with him, and it something in it like even though he wasn't very secure in himself, something in it was so secure that I always knew that these children or this child would be so secure with him. And I don't mean like just safe. I mean like he would secure their love and their innocence and like
Sure.
would
Understood.
always give it
Would
room.
be a
And
good
so
father.
yeah, and so I just knew that like he wouldn't be a dad that was just kind of there. Like I knew that he would be a dad that was like all the way there. And so anyway, we had my son, and that kid is brilliant. That kid is he has got it going on. He tells me every day, especially as of lately, Mom, this is the best day ever. And I'm like,
Ah, I
please don't
love
ever
that.
lose that, dude.
That's adorable.
He gets
That's so
really sad
special.
that he is not the next age yet, and I'm
Mm.
like, no, dude, it's cool. Like you want to
You'll get
be,
there.
yeah, you want to be, yeah, it'll come, and he'll kind of like, no, I want to be, and I'm like, what? I asked him finally the other day. I confronted him about it. I got in his face, and I like got down to his level, and I was like, what do you think is gonna change when you're that old? And he goes, more fun. I said, what is more fun when you're that old? And he was like, I don't know, and then ran off. and
Sounds about right.
if like we could teach every kid that, like it's just because I used to get scolded for it. You better enjoy your time now. I wish I had what you had.
Mm.
Same lesson. It's
Yeah,
the
same
same
lesson.
lesson. You're like making them think, you know. And so anyway, yeah, I'm really glad that we did have a kid together. We get along now, you know, enough to co-parent well. We did the fourth together. We do holidays together. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's lovely.
And you know, we didn't have that. And yeah, so Arlington, we weren't pregnant yet. He was really struggling with some things, and I was trying to figure out whether I was going to keep in psychology and like deep psychiatric, you know, studies. But I kind of like didn't want to, and I didn't really like. It wasn't just because school was going to be really expensive and long, but it was like, and I'm not going to say I've never believed in college. I just knew it wasn't the only way. Uh, and but like I didn't really know what I was going to do, and I just this thing that drew to me psychology for so long. I was like, you know, whatever. And so we moved. He had the when you go to a special duty like that and you get done with it, you can go anywhere in the world. And like,
Clutch.
I still got family in Italy, and they've got an airborne division down in Italy. And so I was like, dog, let's fucking go. Like we
That's
had
sick.
one of my best friends in high school. She was a foreign exchange student from the Italian Alps, and she's wanted me to go out there for so long. Where her and I still keep up.
That's
And
excellent.
her name's Francesca. She's so beautiful. She's such an amazing, like, and I can't imagine if she's like that, like what the rest of it is like. I've never been really. And what her parents were like, I knew like your parents shape a lot of who you are, and so if that's who she was, like that's who her parents must be. And so I was
Hmm.
like really excited to go to Italy, and I thought we were gonna go to Italy, and I was like, I don't give a shit to leave home. I went literally all but like 4 miles on the other side of the country from my family. Do you think I care about leaving anyone over there? No, they can call me. And he was like, he couldn't do it. His parents are in Virginia Beach, and he could not do it. And I was like, there's no way, dude. You got your pick of the litter, and we're going to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The only time we've been through there, it was like a terrible thunderstorm with a tornado that we thought we were going to get swept up like the Wizard of the Oz. And he was like, no, we're going. And I was like, all right, dude, like you're the fucking man of the family. And we spent some time in Virginia Beach, and we came down here. We got here, and I was like, you motherfucker. You did not do this to us. And he was like, nah, we're good. Like, it'll be okay. And I'm glad that we did do that instead of going to
Mhm.
Italy. Obviously, like, I wouldn't be here. Uh,
Right. Okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was your North Carolina
so
origin
that's how I got to
story.
North
Okay.
Carolina. And what's funny, dude, and I think that I love, like, remembering things like this when I was little. And just like the thing with my dad where I was like, you have to answer all my questions. Like, the things that you're, like, so sure of when you're young. I had one of my best friend's brothers. He went to military. I don't know if he was like in trouble. I don't know what he was. I don't know what was going on there. But like, I just know that a lot was going on in the family with like the parents separating. And he was older than us, and he went to military school in North Carolina. But it was like a high school or like a charter school. Like it wasn't like the military just yet. He's in the military now, I think. Or he's like just got out. I don't know. But like he did go in the military. But he went to a military school here when he was like younger, and I just remember like being like, what the fuck is in North Carolina? That's in the middle of butt fuck nowhere. Well, if there's any state that I'm never going to go to, it's North Carolina. And I remember saying this in their hallway. And then when Aaron had told me North Carolina, immediately that sparked up in my mind. And I was like, fuck, dude. I was like, that's karma. You knew where
Right.
you were going, and it's funny, like understanding predestination and like things like that, like how reality shapes itself, and
Hmm.
like the things you say and the memories when we were young, and like I just remember being like, never North Carolina, and now I
Nah.
know that I'll part of me will be in North Carolina forever. Not only do I think that like we will do something of the business, like keeping at least one of the businesses centrally here. Um, Especially in Chapel Hill. But I
Mhm.
think that like North Carolina will end up owning houses here and like keeping the houses we have. Like we've
Cool.
got one down in the suburbs of Bragg, and it's 5 bedrooms, and it's like this beautiful house in the suburbs, and it was like everything we ever wanted, and then it was like nothing we wanted. And
Mm.
but I think we'll keep that house just because like we want to make sure we have property, and
Yep.
we don't want our kid to have nothing, and so we've decided like joint interest in everything for our kid would just be it. And so I think we'll actually keep getting more houses. Like I'll have mine, he'll have his, and I think what we'll do is like keep that one and rent it out. But
Yep.
we'll kind of always just be here in North Carolina, which is like such a funny thing because like, dude, people from California, you say North Carolina, they go, "What is there? What is there? What even? What would you ever?" They think it's like Kansas.
Oh, okay. No, it's
You know
way
what I
better
mean?
than
Like you think
Kansas.
it's Oklahoma, you think there's nothing there. Um, but I'm glad to be in North Carolina. There's a lot to do here. I can't stand the heat,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
but I
Yeah.
have, that's how I broke into the wellness industry and how I met you.
Hmm.
So I've met a lot of people with what I'm doing now. Most of my clients are in North Carolina. I have clients in Africa and Australia and all across the
Nice.
United States. But like most of them are here, right here in North Carolina. And it's cool. It's cool.
Nice. Okay, cool. So I just learned so much about you. I see where the passion for farming comes from, and how that's kind of been ingrained from you or in you for a long time. And now I'm starting to get where your passion for, I guess, America in general comes from. Just having the experience with those families and living in DC and having to start your day early there, and so now I feel like we're kind of getting close to where it all comes together and what you're doing now. And so
Yeah.
you had, when you started training folks and you had been doing your part-time coaching, you were training with a lot of military guys. So let's kind of start there, and then we'll get to where you're going now, and maybe
Yeah.
get a little bit deeper into some of the farming stuff.
So I was a nerd. I was a nerd about exercise, and I was a nerd about like anything I could do. But I like it was one of those things where I had no experience. And we actually, one of Aaron's, it was like a leader. They both had these two companies that did like the casket bears had these cool leaders, and they were we thought they were kind of like they were cool, but they were like really harsh, and they were like I didn't really like them to be, especially to begin with.
Uh-huh.
Um, but they were both from Ranger Regiment, and like I've always been really scared of guys. I've always been really scared of like, hey, like don't talk to me, and so I was really scared to ask for help, especially from these trainers that I worked with because I had seen a lot of people like having relationships, and it was a really big gym. It's one of the biggest gyms in DC, and so and I started my certs. I started looking at certs when I still worked for that politician up there. And so
Okay.
that's how like that's I kind of like it had gone along for a long time. And I was in person training fully over there. And then but yeah, like I was like I didn't know everyone told me that you can know everything about every subject, but you need to find a niche. And like that's where your money's at, that's where your safety's at, that's where your sanity is at, because you don't want to be the jack of all trades coach. And even though I am now. Like it's nice because when you are that jack of all trades, you learn where to if you can't help like I still have a niche, but like that holistic the jack of all trades, like I can send that person safely to a coach that I trust. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
like I am glad that I got that all over background when I first started, especially from textbooks and then all these different coaches that were niches. But I couldn't find it, and I was like, okay. And I had done the testing to go into the army so many times. And then I had looked into like psychological operations. I had a lot of friends that were doing that. And so I had like was trying to figure out like what, and I just had this like super high score. And I was super confident, and it happened so many times in my life. I even, when I got down to brag, I did everything but the swim to go into Air Force Special Forces. And every single time, and like my old boss was one of these people. Her brother was too. Her brother was actually human intelligence. And so these people that have done this thing, she was a Navy officer. Um, these people that have done this thing already and they've seen this stuff and like they're telling you it's not for you. When there's everyone telling you it's not for you, you kind of have to listen. And these people that have your best interest. And so I like always wanted to serve my country, and I really fought hard with this because I was like, no, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I'm supposed to do, I know this is what I'm supposed to do, and I won't do it enlisted. I was really afraid, and like I hope that this is okay to say here, but I was really afraid to be raped in the military on the
Hmm.
enlisted side. I had a lot of friends real close to me, one in the Marines, one like a couple in the Army, and they were just getting abused. They were on the enlisted side, and like they were real sweet girls, and they were tough too. Like they were really tough, and and I thought, well, fuck, if it can happen to them, like you know. And so the enlisted side really scared me, but I
Yep.
didn't want to be a woman officer because I already knew that like people wouldn't really listen to me as a woman, and especially as like a nerd. But I
Hmm.
thought if I can lead from the front and I can do it with them, like I know I'll be okay. And it just never panned out. Like I would get convinced out of it every single time of somebody that was in a position that I wanted to be in. And so the whole time. And so now I'm like, okay, well, what to do. And this kept happening. And then I met these two rangers. They used to come and work out with Aaron. And
Okay.
I had finally asked them, like, hey, will you guys like teach me? They were huge.
Yeah, Rangers are
Huge.
awesome.
And they were out of regiment. And, obviously they were up at the old guard. But they knew so much about working out more than these other dorks. And so I was like, okay. can you guys just like teach me a little something about something? And I remember too, they would do tricep push downs, dude, endlessly. And I think they
Yeah.
were just fighting some demons during them because I feel like they would
Yeah.
just
Getting it out.
and I just remember we would do like a million tricep pull downs, and I would just be like, "Are we done with triceps yet?" And they're like, "Are yours strong yet?" And I'd be like, "No," and they'd be like, "Then no." And like, but what they had taught me was there's actually I had asked him to write it out, and I will post it on Substack or like wherever when he writes it out. But it's just like about like paying your dues to the Iron God or whatever. But
I am upset.
I won't say his name, but he used to like tell me all these like funny stories to basically give me a shit ton of confidence. And I would always ask him like, how were you not scared? Because I'll never ask people about their service. Plenty of people have told me about it, like a lot more than I want to know, but like I'll
Mhm.
never ask about it. But I will ask like, when you're that scared, like how do you do that? How what is it in you that helps you like coast through some of those things? And after a while, like when you've done it so much, like you're just it's kind of there. You don't really have to think about it at all, but they always will recall, the first times of like feeling that big fear or like getting over those big mountains. And he would give me all these like snippets. And so he was a cool friend. We ended up having like him and his daughter down when we came to Bragg. He stayed friends with us for a long time, and he actually owns a really successful coaching company now. But I learned a lot of like workouts and the way to train and like what you need to do for certain tests. And then
Okay.
I will apply biomechanics from textbooks
Yep.
and then reading what like courses were like RASP and Q course and all those required. And then a bunch of errand soldiers would want help, and like a bunch of my friends, I trained a lot of the wives over at Bragg, and then like their friends, the husbands would want help, and their friends, like anybody would just want a program. And so I used to write these online programs, and I used to be like, just kind of like, all right, like just tell me what you need, tell me where you're at. I remember one girl was getting kicked out of the army. She was sweet as hell too. She was heartbroken, and she was like real tough. Like her and her husband were both in the military, and she came to me in tears. And I didn't know her. She was actually just in my neighborhood, but everyone would always see my gym and like kind of just come over, and it just became this big military community.
That's
And
awesome.
but she was like 40 pounds. It was like 35 to 40 pounds overweight, and she was going to lose her army career. And I had never done like a fast weight loss thing because I've always believed in like long term, resolution to keep that. And so we did this like really vigorous thing, and I was like, oh damn, like I could change some lives. And then I was working out while I was pregnant, and I actually had to stop doing CrossFit because I couldn't like do clean and jerks anymore. That's
Yeah. Right. Uh-huh.
really. But I stopped, and then I was like in a lot of pain too. That's when I was really heavy, and so I was in a bunch of knee pain, a bunch of ankle pain, and your ligaments are real limber while you're pregnant, like the most
Yes.
ever, and so you have to be real careful doing that kind of stuff. But up until I was 7.5 months, I worked out when I was pregnant, and then I got into postpartum. After I like had trained, I was still training a lot of the military, and I stayed on that, and I still do. I have a lot of LEOs. I have a couple firefighters. I've got a lot of security. Like I still am in that realm, but I don't train people up for schools anymore. If anyone needs to train up for a school, I'll send them to someone like Softly, and I'll just be like, hey, like this app already has everything, and it comes from the guys that literally teach the courses for like to get through the, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
go learn it from them. And so when I started transferring out of military, it was when I had my son, and I started doing postpartum stuff. And
Sure.
good
That
mom,
tracks.
like I like postpartum stuff, and nothing against women here, but like we are a pain in the ass. We are. We really are. We're an emotional wreck. And now that I'm more emotionally centered, like I feel like I could go back to that niche pretty easily and be like, oh, this is cake, and like let me help you, and not soak up any of that energy.
Hmm.
But it's really hard not to feel mother's emotions, especially when you connect so deeply to it.
Yep.
And the problem is that these women that come to me that are postpartum usually think very poorly of themselves. And that doesn't make them bad or stupid or anything, but like they
Oh
think
yeah.
poorly of themselves. And there is a truth to like it does rub off on you. And so
Yeah. Oh, for
I
sure.
need to like kind of get away from the more emotional, get away from the that. And then I got a job in wellness, and I actually interviewed for a place across from the place that I work concierge now, like the 10-mile radius that I work concierge.
Okay.
I got denied as their manager. And the only reason why was because I didn't live close enough. And
I
I
gotcha.
thought, well, what if I like, and it was a giant private studio, like they covered the whole area. And I was like, but I have all the qualifications. I have everything. I'm literally like, what? You know? And they were like, you just don't live close enough. And we need somebody that lives closer. And I said, well, what if I move? And they said, how fast can you do it? And I said, in a month. And they said, no. And so I was like, all right, for whatever reason, I went home. I kind of cried and I was just kind of like, oh, fuck it, whatever. And I remember almost giving up on moving to like the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area, the
Okay.
Triangle. And then I had sent out a few offers already, and this other place had picked me up, and they were like, "Hey, like, come in for an interview." I went in, I nailed it. They said the same thing though. They said like, you don't live close enough, and I was like, "All right, well, the next couple months, like, I can move. I just need a little bit of time. Like, I have a son down there, but I do want to move up here eventually anyway. So, like, it's happening. I won't screw you guys." And so I ended up doing that for a while. Very, very particular owners, but that was a good thing because I needed to really learn that in corporate business. And then I went to the polar opposite, and I'll save all the details, but like went to the polar opposite of like absolutely no security, nothing. And so I'm really glad that I had that first experience being a general manager of corporate wellness because it really showed me like the inhumaneness of corporate wellness,
Hmm.
while still having a face of humanity. And
Yeah. So, do you want to talk about that a little bit in terms of what you found to be inhumane in that corporate wellness space? Yeah.
uh,
Take a sip.
mold free coffee. We can talk about that later, but mold.
Sure.
Yeah, corporate wellness. The time that I went into it, and I did fitness managing at a few of the gyms down in Bragg. So I was like, over the trainers and like leading the training departments. So I had done operations management for a while in corporate wellness, but that was like gym corporate wellness. Gym corporate wellness is much different than wellness.
Hmm.
Or we'll just say like corporate fitness gyms are much different than corporate wellness centers. And gyms, dude, $1 a month, they'll get you $1 for the first month, and they're car salesmen. And you got to be at it. And like, if you're the fitness manager and you're doing like the fitness intakes and you're selling the training, you're the high ticket seller. You're the highest ticket seller. You are the one that actually has to have sales skills. And so like, you're helping everyone basically not be assholes. And like, then you kind of get knocked for it because your bosses are like, we don't care. We just want money. Like, we don't, you know what I mean? There's no ethics here. Like, this is their own problem. They're an adult. And that didn't sit well with me, but that was also like a really trashy business model. And it
Okay.
came
Sure.
from, what made me sad is one of the owners of those companies down there, the gyms, is like the realest fucking person. And he has other people control the company for him. And so I think he just kind of like turns a blind eye to, a lot of what goes on,
Okay.
because I don't think he wants to look at like what it became. But I will say he sat down with me my first day there, and everyone had told me that he doesn't like, he'll talk to everyone, but he doesn't like sit there and like take some time. And he told me he wanted to have another meeting with me. And I thought this was like super normal. This was like the first job that I had that wasn't self-employed for a while. And so I thought this was like normal that the owner just like came. Well, they have like 15 locations in North Carolina. This guy like doesn't live there. And we were cleaning the gym one day and he like took me aside. He's like, I want to talk to you again. And so he took me aside and he's like talking to me about whatever. And just kind of like the future and like what I wanted out of this and like what was going on. And I was like, yeah, like I want to do the sweat equity and I want to own one of these gyms. Like I want to own a facility. I already have this at home. I showed him and I was like, I've already built this kind of company, but like it kind of just faded out after I had a kid, and like I want to learn this gym industry, and I don't just want to be a trainer. And we had talked, and he was like, "I'll tell you one thing: your eagerness to succeed will be the only reason you fail if you ever fail." And I was like, "Huh?" And he didn't say it exactly like that, but he was basically saying like, "Dude, you jumped the gun," and like it's a
Ah,
good
there
thing.
it is. Okay.
It's a good thing. And like, don't ever lose that. He was like, you remind me a lot of myself when I was your age. He goes, how old are you? And he said 21. And I was like, I'm 19, or it was like 20 or something. And he was like, yeah, like you got it, kid. But like, you got to learn how to, kind of navigate and like, you got to learn how to like really work for people that aren't these giant players, right? And he's like, I don't know where you've come from, but I know you've never worked for corporate. And I was like, fuck. And he told me, he was just like, don't lose it. Don't lose it. It doesn't matter if you succeed here or not. You will never fail. I promise you that. And I was like, all right, cool. And so I took that. I obviously didn't stay with those companies. I went up here and then got into corporate wellness and like recovery. And
Right.
dude, man, that's another beast. It's like it's good overall for society. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I'm
net
so
positive.
happy that we brought that stuff to America. I think that is a beautiful thing that people are waking up on how to like revive their bodies and like take care of themselves and recover and do all the things. Learn how to stretch correctly, like just learn how to recover. Like I think that's awesome. I think it's beautiful, but in the way that it's executed, it is such an American capitalistic model. And it's like you don't realize it until you're like proud to help somebody and then you're like strictly reminded that they're only a number. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I've played the numbers game. The numbers game is in the military industrial complex. This is not a numbers game. Like this is a human game. And if you forgot the industry that you got into it to help human beings, not to call them numbers. Now, I totally understand where you have to like keep your KPIs and your P&Ls and like you have
Yeah,
to
for
like
sure.
there's behaviors and
Successful business, you got to keep
you
track of
do
it.
need to see your business in numbers. But to like dial it down to that people are numbers, that you know who their family is, but like you don't really care. I would watch my bosses just like excuse people at the first place I worked and just excuse, like they were just a nuisance. And the people didn't realize this, but I knew the owners and I knew how they interacted, really well. And they were really, the husband was real successful in business, like one of the best businessmen I've ever met. And she was just really particular. And she had a background and an education in like, we'll just say like a modality, right? And so
Hmm.
she knew, like they knew what they were doing together, but they didn't know how to not, like they didn't know how to treat people like people. Like they didn't have that like, let me serve you. They had like, I'll serve you because I know that I'll get more out of it than you will. And
Mm.
that's really dangerous when you don't realize you're doing it, because they're going to get to the end of their careers where they are, if they never change track, they're going to get to the end of their careers where they own a few locations now, and I'm sure they'll like invest in other things, like they're very smart with their business portfolio, but they're going to get there and they're going to realize that they're not fulfilled and they don't understand why. And I hope to God that it never like hurts their marriage, because they have beautiful children, they have a beautiful life together, and like they are really good people. But when you get to the end of your life and you realize you're not fulfilled at all, like man, that can start some shit. And I was really happy I didn't know that was what I was learning from them right away. Like I learned a lot more, don't get me wrong, and especially about myself, but I didn't realize like that's what I was learning, was like that's how to be in fitness and in wellness and not be fulfilled.
Yeah,
That's what
I
it looks like.
understand.
And then I moved on, and that was just a handle it as you go type of deal. And luckily, I'm pretty fucking good on the fly. And I will say, like, that was probably the most mentally exhausted I've ever been. And I've been in some crazy places. And
Hmm.
the reason why was because, like, not only there's a lot going on, but like, there's no defining structure. And any of the structure that we could have had left the country, and we couldn't call. And so it was really intimidating. I knew, and the other managers that I worked with knew and had the confidence that like we knew how to run a business. We just didn't know the best ways. And so we held it down. We did the best we could. I had an awesome experience to be able to like basically hand pick most of my team, and that's really cool because I didn't do all the interviews alone at the last place. And when you like, not only can you shape a team, but you can pick them for the attributes that they are.
Yep.
Dude, it's fucking awesome. It's fucking awesome. I will say, like, my hiring tactics are much different than other people's. And whatever, you can call me crazy, but like it's never failed me. And I've learned it from some.
What do you think people would call which tactics do you think people would call crazy?
With hiring,
Because I've
with
done some hiring before in different fields and in different jobs, so I'm curious.
did you hire the coaches? The coaches did an amazing job over there.
No, I didn't hire them. I trained them.
Okay, yeah, the coaches were awesome over there. They
Yeah,
were.
solid group.
Especially like with an outsider that was totally like doubtful of it. Like that was a cool group.
Good.
Um, you did a really good job there. The hiring tactics that I've always used and that I've always felt like I could listen to my heart the most, which is that's unfortunately the best thing. You don't need like it helps if you have a background education or whatever. You don't always want to take somebody like it depends on how much time constraint you have. Like how much time do you have to train them? How much time do you have to teach them how to execute exactly what you want them to do? How much of an emergency is it that they do it correctly and
Right.
how fast? Like you need to understand your parameters of how much time you have to teach them what you need to teach them, and by when. But people think that you need like a fucking PhD in whatever you're going into just to have some adult credibility and like go, some adult trust. And it's like, no, dog. Like, what do their friends think of them? What do you do with your friends?
Right.
What do your friends think? If I were to call your best friend right now, what would they tell me? Most people have never thought of that. And so, and then there's like the day old question of like, tell me about a time you did something hard. And like, I love and hate that one because it is such a true indicator of who somebody is, but it's like so like boxy. And so I'll just be like, hey, what's the hardest thing you've ever done? And they'll
Right.
kind of like, and most people like, they don't think much of themselves. And so then they kind of like, oh, well, they never think of this. Well, there's this and there's this and there's this. And then like, I would always have in interviews, people would doubt themselves. And I'd be like, but you told me that. Like, and I would know that most of these people had a confidence issue, an intelligence issue, and like true intelligence. I don't care what degree you have. I don't care where you went. I was just arguing with a little girl that went to Yale the other day. I don't care what education you have and where it came from. True intelligence is the ability to change. That's it.
The ability to change.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And so it's like if these people were willing to change themselves and I don't like not in a manipulative way, but like change themselves and adapt to a higher understanding or like a higher being or higher confidence right in front of me, I was like, oh, yeah. And I didn't care how much they knew about whatever, unless I was like on a time constraint. But I've always hired people off of like the true essence and the true nature of who they are, not what they know. Because you can teach them anything. Like there's a fucking employee handbook.
Right. Yeah. We have standard operating procedures. Like I'm going to teach you how to do the job.
There's a whole book on that. There's a whole module. Like we're in the modern day now. You can watch a YouTube video. I don't care, and so like I would just find these really, really good people. And like it was always sad having to weed people on, tell people no. Like that always kind of broke my heart because I could see like some of these people were just so passionate and I was just like, damn, you don't have it though. Like I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it was cool. And when you're selling, over $100,000 in a couple of days and you're prepping a team for that, like it gets hairy because all of those sales were not to be selfish. All of those sales were because each and every one of us believed in what we were doing. Mm-hmm. We believed in the people. We wanted them to feel better and they knew that. And
if you want them to experience the thing, it's not so much like selling a product. It's like, no, I want you to experience
I want you to have this. I want you to experience this. I want this for you. Like,
yep.
About XYZ, like what about that? Like I want that for you. And dude, I will tell you, and I don't like that I'm kind of giving these like tips out because I feel like people will kind of use it manipulatively, but you really can't. Like people know when you're being manipulative and salesy, but like, man, that's the best way to do it is like, don't sell, just educate. Don't sell, just educate. And like, don't ever forget what you got in this industry. But nevertheless, like no more corporate. I can't do it. And I never want to go back. And so I actually sat in my house for about a month. I had just gotten in a car accident like a year before, and I like didn't have the best health at that point. I actually had the most poor health that I've ever had when I was not at that job anymore, and that they just drained me. I had like no, I have little connection with my son. It was there, but it wasn't like it should have been, and I was just like, damn, dude, you suck. You're a terrible mom. You can't do
Oh,
anything. You don't even work out, and like you're this fitness fucking wellness person, and you're the most sick all the time. Like you don't even have your health. And like there is something about hitting a rock bottom. And my ex that I totally loved, like we just didn't work out.
hmm.
And it was just like, dang, I moved up to Raleigh, I lost him, and then from there, like I lost everything. And I just felt like I had nothing. And as much as I love my ex-husband, like he's never been somebody that I could call and be like, I'm really sad. He would be like, kind of good, fuck you, but like,
Ha,
you know what
good.
I mean? And but he would never like leave me out to dry. But I never
Sure.
wanted to, like him to be the person that I leaned on because it wasn't his responsibility. And so like even though he was my best friend while I was going through all this, like I never called him. And I never wanted him to think any less of me because I didn't want him to think that I couldn't be a good mom, even though I was going through things. And I didn't want him to worry about our son. And so I just like stayed really alone. I stayed in bed for like a month, and I just like literally I would go from my bathroom and I would just cry and cry and cry. And I had also lost a kid. I lost another kid with
Mm.
that I really loved. I lost another kid about a year and a half prior, almost actually 2 years at this point. And I was just like, I was like finally dealing with it. And I was just like, God damn it, life could be so different. And that's dangerous. To live in a reality that is not is will kill you. It will. Like it killed me for so
Oh
long.
yeah, it's the delusion
Yeah.
of what could be the hype. That's why I hate playing hypothetical games when
Mhm.
people are like, "Well, what if this had happened?" I'm like, "In the
Yeah.
past, like I don't know. Like
It ain't
the
happening.
butterfly effect is incalculable. So like
Yeah.
I can't even entertain that because it's like,
Past, present, and future are the same thing, and they're all right now. And like, you got to get your mind out of like whatever could have been or could be or whatever. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
that's a really hard lesson to learn, especially because like when you're emotionally tied to it, you have to like force yourself out of it, and it takes a
yep,
lot of consciousness. But it's a good lesson to learn. I think everyone should understand that like when you live in a reality that's not what's actually going on, dude, you're gonna kill yourself. You literally will kill yourself. You will get so sick, and so I did for a while. And I was, this is at the point where like, dude, I know everything about wellness, and I really don't know everything, but like, oh,
you know enough in a
I know
general
I
in a
know
lot of
most,
topics,
of what the world's missing, and I'm not doing any of it, and I'm not taking care of myself. And the very reason is like I didn't want to take care of myself. I everything I had just like died in front of me, and then I get this call from one of my old members, and I just remember her laugh would fill the halls, and she was just so infectiously happy. And I remember I got a call from her, and she had pitched me her business idea. And she was like, but I love how you interact with people. I love how you teach. I love how you take care of people. Will you do this with me? Like, I need like one other person. Maybe like we have like a worker that we kind of take some hours here or there off of us. But like, I want to do this. Do you think
right?
it's doable? And I was like, you're asking me if I think it's doable. Like, why are you asking me? And she's like, well, you know this. Like, I don't. It's just like I really loved it, and I really love the experience that you gave me. So I want to give it to everyone. And I've got the money to do it. And I want to retire with this. And so I like had accepted this deal that we were gonna be partners, and we were gonna do this together. And I was so fucking excited because not only did I not have structure over me that would limit me, but I had structure below me that would support me. And that's what I didn't have before, is either I had structure over me
Hmm.
or no structure under me. And so I was like, oh, like there's nothing over me and there's everything below me. Like I can do this. And I was so fucking stoked. And her name was Elena, and she died like not even a week later. And
What?
yeah, last July. And she died of a heart attack. I think it was a heart attack. She was biking. She was really healthy. She was honestly healthier than me. Like she did more than me. She was way more active and proactive in her health. And she died. She was 50.
Get out. That's so young.
Yeah, and she was really healthy. And man, I was just got chills down my back. Yeah, like I took about a week just not even understanding what had just happened. We were supposed to have like a really big meeting 3 days after she died, like 2 days after she died. And I remember I walked in to teach a class, and I had asked, I sensed something that was like wrong with one of my, she's actually a really like quiet person in general, but I felt like something was wrong. And so I had asked her, and I was like, hey, like, are you okay? This is before class. And she goes, yeah, like I'll be okay, but one of my friends just passed away. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, holy shit. And I gave her a hug. She said her name. And I was like, what's her last name? And she told me, and I was like, there's no fucking way. Like that, she didn't know we knew each other. I was like, there's no way. There's like, it can't be. That's no way. And the husband was one of this lady's doctors. And so like they were all close friends and everything. And she goes, yeah, no, like she died, this morning. Or it was like yesterday. Or it was like something, it was like right, it just happened. And I was like, what the fuck?
Wait, and that's how you found out?
Yeah.
Oh my
I found out
God.
seconds before I was supposed to teach a class. And
Just with someone you didn't even know knew her.
yeah, with someone I didn't know knew her.
Whoa.
And I just talked to her on the phone. It was either that afternoon or like the day before. And that's kind of all still foggy, but like I was just like, what? And like I remember I took a second and I was like kind of staring at the floor, and I was like, okay, you've got two options right now. You can cry and you can leave and everyone will understand and they're all really nice, or you can take a deep breath, realize that these people still need their class, and you can get through it with them. And it's always better to have community, and then you won't feel like shit later because you didn't give them their class. And so I took a breath, and they were like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need, it's okay. Like, we can do it. And I was like, no, we're good. We did the whole class, and we went to her wake like a week later. And I remember talking to her husband, and I was just like, hey, like, I don't even know what the fuck this looks like, because I was just planning a whole life with you guys, basically. Like,
right.
Your guys' retirement, I was pretty much just shaping. Like, I don't know what this looks like right now, but I will promise you that I will carry her legacy somehow. And I don't know how that is, but I will figure it out. And just give me time. And I just remember he cried. Her sister cried. Like the niece was just like, I just remember everyone was like, oh my God, thank you. And I was like, please, like, you don't need to thank me. Like, I really want to do this, And so that's part of how the Average Foundation came.
Okay.
The Average Foundation didn't come until a lot later. I was still concierge coaching and I was teaching classes. And then I also do quite a bit of classes and lectures in front of scientists and doctors. And it's really only scientists and doctors because I am contracted for a company that gets these contracts to teach these giant companies. And so we service the corporate wellness for them. These two ladies are the only two ladies I will probably ever work for again. They're the sweetest souls. Like literally, they're everything that you want in a wellness manager. And so I contract for them. I do these lectures and these classes all over the triangle, to scientists and doctors and like all these just big corporations. And that gave me the confidence to go much further. Because in my concierge company, like, and what I told you yesterday too, like I was making the most money I'd ever made in 1 year. I almost doubled my salary of what I was making at the corporate job that I made the most money. And I was like, dude, this is cake. Like, why am I not happy? Like, I have everything I need to have. If I don't have something, I fucking order it. And then like we do it. Or if I want to go do something, like we go do it. If my son wants to do something, we do it. Like, what is the issue? We're healthy. We're fine. Like, I have time. Like, what is happening? And I realized that I just felt like my dream was to help more people and not keep it so tight. And so even though I had found a niche of coaching the highest performers of their respected trade or like their respected, whatever hobby, sport, didn't matter what it was. Like I had all these elite performers and I felt like I was gatekeeping all this knowledge that was helping these elite performers. And so I didn't really know what to do with it. And I just remember I could not sleep one night. My son was in my arms and I was just kind of reading, going down rabbit holes and whatever. And just kind of reading a bunch of stuff on my phone. And I remember I was like, you have two options. You can get up right now and make some coffee and then take a nap later in the day, or you can do your best to shut your eyes and probably drive yourself insane. And so I just like slowly got out from under my son. I went and I washed my face, and it was like maybe 3:30, 4 in the morning. And I came in here and I sat at my computer and I just put my head in my hands and I cried. And I was like, dude, you are literally going nowhere right now. You're going to have so much money. You're going to have a company that services the world's elite to teach themselves how to perform. You're working with some of the highest players, and you always have, and you are going nowhere. And so I just thought, well, fuck, like, you know, and then we get to the end of my life and it's all a facade, like it's all fake, right? All this money, all this, like everything. And I remember imagining my life play out and what my son would think of me if I knew that I had all this information and I like kept it only for money. And there wasn't so much guilt as there was like, holy shit, I don't want my life to look like that. And
Right.
I went on to the North Carolina Secretary of State website that second, and I went and applied for the rights for my 501c3. And you've got to go through a lot of like hoops after that. Basically, I was like making sure that nobody had taken the name, and I was like, and I didn't know. I knew I was gonna like do a foundation. I knew I was gonna do a not for profit, but I didn't know what I would ever call it. And I really struggled with this because I was like, it should be something cool. It should be something like, you know what I mean? Like casual.
Yeah.
Like in performance and training, we want it to be like sexy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, no, this is going to be called the Average Foundation because this is to change the American average. And what I didn't realize then was like the American average actually had not just everything to do with like us in America. It has everything to do with the world. Dude, we're the center of the fucking world's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
We're the center of it. And like other countries, don't get me wrong, other countries live by their own mindsets, and other countries like refuse to be, you know, indoctrinated to the American way, and like all more power to them.
Sure.
You know, but a lot of the world goes off of like this American ideology, and we are some of the collectively weak society. Like
I know what you're saying for sure.
We're just so weak, and I was like, this is going to be the Average Foundation. And then
I
I
love it.
I was so excited. And I wrote this like quick little excerpt of what it would be. And I was so excited to present it to like some of the people that were closest to me, because I won't really tell a lot of people what I'm doing until I go do it. And I presented it to everyone, and every single one of them told me that I should not call it the Average Foundation because of the connotation that it sounds like. And I was like, good, because we're not changing. We're not trying to like make it like sound like everything's all sexy already. Like we're literally stating and accepting like this is the average, whatever it is. It's not saying the average is bad. It's just saying like this is the average.
Just meeting the average where it is. Just calling a spade a spade.
If you if you want it to be different, if you don't like how that sounds, ask yourself why you don't like the word average. Because average didn't used to be this. The average American, especially like in the 60s with fitness, you know, the Lost the Era program, and like
JFK was big on fitness in schools.
He was a baller, and like all politics aside, that was like the last president that had the people. I know like Reagan had the people a little bit, but that was like more manipulative ways. And I'm not saying like every president after it was bad. I'm just saying like that was the last president that had the country behind him. And if you look at what he was teaching, you know, the whole like, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Like all he was telling us was to be healthy and how to be selfless and how to live a very fulfilled life. And, you know,
because if you do that, then the collective will be fine.
Do it. And it's real sad when you look at some of the American averages that we used to be. But like, again, you can't live it's like, you know, you can't live in the past. You just have to like, okay, it's there, it happened. And then here's where we're at. And it's all up to all of us if we want to change it. It's not me. It's not me telling you guys what to do. It's literally you deciding for yourself that you don't want to fit into that anymore. And like I could,
because if enough people do that, the collective average will raise.
The collective average raises. Somebody, well, I'll go into that when I can explain it a little bit better.
Real quick, do you mind if we pause for 2 seconds so I can pee, and then I just have to grab a charger real quick because my laptop is freaking cruising through battery like no one's business. Boom. I'll be right back. What are you sipping on now?
I've got Jocko Greens.
Nice.
Some
What
creatine.
flavor?
It's like it's not the pineapple one. No, maybe it is. Mango pineapple something. I don't know. It's delicious though. I did athletic greens for a decent amount of time, and I know they're really good for you, but these taste really good, and they're Jocko, so I know they're super clean. So, you know,
Exactly. I have the peach Jocko.
that's what it is. That's what it is.
Nice.
I don't like the coconut one. I've tried the other one. My son loves them though. He like begs me for green juice.
Oh,
I
nice.
always have orange juice for him. He loves orange juice and apple juice, and so like he'll take like a little sip of my coffee sometimes during breakfast, and but he like every day, no matter what, if there's chocolate milk in the house, it's chocolate milk. But like if he can have anything, he'll be like, I want green juice, and I'm like, do you want orange juice or do you want green juice? And he'll be like, green juice. It's
That's
really cool.
awesome. So wait, I'm gonna try something real quick, but it might make my camera go black. So you just hold on for 2 seconds if you don't mind. Boom. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. I was not sure that was gonna work.
This
Okay,
chair.
cool. Sorry about that. Excellent. Do you know what the fuck we were talking about? Because you know when you walk into another room and you just completely.
Doop.
I
Um,
walked in 3 different rooms and now
the
I'm like,
average
what the fuck?
foundation. How the average foundation got to be.
Yes. So average foundation. We were talking about um, leveling
That
up
I
the
was.
collective average.
Yeah, yeah.
Boom. Excellent. All right. I'm locked in.
Yeah, before we go any further, do you have any questions about my two coaching, like what's going on there? I mean, I know I kind of told you like how they came about and how I came to it, but like, you know, what it
Yeah, for sure. So I guess one, how do you split your time between the two of them? And two, I guess clearly defining how they're separate.
it's a work in progress for
Uh-huh.
sure. Really, when you have it's basically a funnel. I believe I have the I can help everyone trait.
Hmm.
Um, and I refuse to get rid of it. I just found a way to make it effective. And so if somebody cannot afford or they're not, they don't have, they can't afford my concierge services and my one on one, but they really want to help themselves, excuse me, but they really want to help themselves, I will funnel them to my not for profit. And if I think that like they're definitely not going to be able to do it all themselves, like take a program and take an outline and kind of fill it in with minimal direction. If I think that they're not going to be able to do that, I will go find a coach that I know and trust or that I've seen their work and trust, and I will give them to that coach. Like, hey, you got a little bit of money, or like, here's this app that already has all their stuff put together that's a little bit more, like you can text their coaches, you can do this and you can do that. And like, don't get me wrong, I would love for the average foundation to be like that, but it's got to be when it's not just me.
Hmm.
Um, or I'll go crazy. But if I can't help someone, I will find somebody that can. And if anything, like the average foundation is free. This is all free information of how I'm helping the world elite perform at the highest level they can of health and longevity, which they can be the best in the world at whatever. And even if they're doctors, like I've got a lot of doctors as clients and they don't know how to take care of themselves, and they might know like what's healthy and what's like good, like they have a certain level of discernment, but and especially when you're taught only a medical textbook from the western world, like you don't know
Hmm.
how to take care of yourself all the way. And so I'm taking all that information that I'm teaching all these people and I'm literally just like giving it to you, and so it's like it's free. You have no reason to fail unless you just don't want to do this. um and that's how I funnel them. So like that's how people get, I navigate where people go when they come to me. Really what was happening and why I split them too was that I was getting a lot of people that would come to me for coaching, but they couldn't afford me. And because I'm me, I would just be like, it's okay, like pay whatever you can. And
Right.
that was
Uh-huh.
just losing my fucking mind in these
I'm sure
programs.
you were. I've
And
been there
like,
for that before.
yeah, every good coach does it. And like coaches feel so stupid and so bad for it. And it's like, no, 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 dude. Like we've all been there. You are a good coach and you want to help the world and you have humanity and empathy and you have a passion and a drive. And like there's nothing wrong with that. But I wanted to create a space for people that like my other coaches that I knew as well could send people if they needed help but just couldn't afford it. Because the problem is like you'll go sign up for a $30 a month app, right? And it's like they're giving you workouts, and it's not that they're bad workouts, but like what they're not necessarily doing is teaching you how to teach yourself. And they're not teaching you how to be intuitive with your body or your nutrition or your gut or your emotions or your whatever. Like they don't teach you how to do it yourself and feel it yourself. And that really bothers me because you will have to pay $30 a month for the rest of your life to have this thing program you because you have no idea how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And, so I wanted to create more of a community than anything. How I manage my time, I actually was just arguing with myself yesterday morning. And I was like, no, split the work days. Like, Isabella, split the work days, be stern. And then I was like, that's fucking stupid. You're working with human beings. Like, do you think that the people from the Average Foundation are only going to message you? By the way, I'm so backed up on emails and like messages right now. It's so overwhelming for me to check DMs because I just feel so fucking bad sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I'll be honest, if I know people send me funny things and I just want to giggle, I'll go on there, look at those funny things, and then just be like, never mind. I can't stand social media. Like it's so time consuming.
It's
But these
very time
messages,
consuming.
especially when you're like trying to help somebody deeply over messages, dude, it is a lot. And so like to learn how to balance that, first of all, the best thing I ever did for my mental health was turn off my Instagram notifications. Instagram is the only social media I have as of right now, and turn off the notifications. You don't need to be notified every time someone does something because what it does is it takes your attention, your presentness every time. One of my clients is a programmer.
Okay.
And so he literally creates. And so I literally interact with the human brain that is Apple integrations and like your attention. You know what I mean? And like that's
Oh
what
yeah.
happens. And like, oh, trust me, I'll get him centered. And when I get him centered, I'll be able to teach anybody this. But like, it's a lot and it's really overwhelming. And a lot of people need you. And so I just thought, what if you dedicate like this time and this time, like whatever, 4 to 5 hours of the day for the Average Foundation, and then 4 to 5 hours a day for your clients, and you're online. And I thought that would work for a while, and I tried that. I have to do a lot of filming for the Average Foundation because I do have to do an exercise library, and then obviously I would like to teach more without me having to teach one-on-one to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just kind of write
Filming
art.
an exercise library is time consuming.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking crazy. And if especially if you're like super particular like you and I, dude, it's like every time you go to review a shot, you're like, damn it,
It's
damn
like
it.
I
And
don't I don't know if the camera angle captured the proper extension, like,
Mhm. And then I always have like the whole like don't be an Instagram girly, and like I hate
Dude.
YouTube. I hate shooting YouTube. Thank God I've got a lot of people that have really actually cleared that path for me, and thank goodness. But yeah, it's I tried to split my time evenly and it didn't work. And so what I just thought was like, okay, first of all, if you keep treating these like jobs, they're going to feel like jobs. And these are not jobs. Like, don't get me wrong, my work is a job. It is a job, something I do for money, but like it's not a job. It's something that I want to do regardless. And like
Right.
I've done it where I've not charged people for whole packages just because I know what that is to them.
Yeah.
And
Oh, for
I
sure.
know that I'm changing their life. And so it's like, I don't want it to feel like a job. And so what I did was I just thought, okay, stop thinking of it like work hours because it's not work. And if you think of it like that, it will always be work. How much time do you need to get up in the morning and have like a slow, like pace, like morning, just doing whatever you're supposed to be doing, whatever you want to do for you? What are you, and I love Jocko's thing where like if there's anything that you need to do for your long-term health and well-being or like your legacy, you do it before you start the rest of your day.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I do it wrong, I'll work out in the afternoons if I have to, but like I usually don't have to now. But I'll like how much time does it take to do everything that you want to do for you, um to start your day? And then like when do you want to start work? Do you want to eat when you work? Do you want to not eat when you work? Like when do you think best? When can you get into flow states best? Like how does this happen? And really a flow state is just a meditative state. It's just like an
Mm-hmm.
unbothered state. And so like what bothers you? You got to like think like what bothers you. And so I carved out this like schedule yesterday. Actually, it's funny you asked because I just did it yesterday morning where I totally rearranged how I was attempting all of this. Because man, I'll tell you, like a farm, a not-for-profit, a for-profit, and a baby are a fucking lot. And then on top of that, I love this girl, but she's a little psycho. I have a Belgian Malinois, a German Shepherd mix, and she is crazy. She is me as a toddler. And so like it's nice to be able to start teaching her that like strictness with love, because what I'm doing is I'm like teaching myself. And it's funny how we do that with dogs and animals, but really like having all that on your plate is not easy. It's not. It's all your time. And if
Uh-huh.
you don't learn to get into meditative states while you're doing tasks all those require, like you're going to be frazzled, you're going to be miserable. And so I stopped thinking of all these things like something to do. And I had a friend who's very spiritual, knows like that's the best head on somebody's shoulders I've ever met. And he kept pounding into my head that there's nothing to do and there's nowhere to go. And like he's really strict with me because I can handle it.
Hmm.
And so like man, I'm so glad that somebody had that kind of stern love with me when I was older, especially when you know so much and you've seen so much of the world and you're like literally looking at everyone, including politicians, like they're little babies. Like that's a hard thing because you have to not look at yourself like you're above anyone. But when you have
Right.
these realizations that are like you can see them and they can't, you it's hard not to think that. And like finally somebody was like, hey, I see you, but like you need to understand that there is nothing to do and there's nowhere to go. And like forever, my brain that's always working could not handle that. I was like, no, there's everywhere to go. There's everything to do. And like we all do that, we
For
all,
sure.
yeah, like we're all just in panic all the time. And what really cleared it for me and what helped me understand that there was nowhere to go was that everything that we do almost, and I have to be careful with using definites. I don't like to use definites, but like
Yeah, it's hard to generalize.
I'll,
I
I'll
often
generalize
fall
this
into the
one
trap.
pretty easily.
Hmm.
Other than the few select people that have kind of figured this out, everything we do is from fear. And what I mean by that is like, okay, you get people all the time that like they want to look better. Most of them don't want to look better because they care to look at themselves better. They don't want to feel the feeling of what it feels like to not look good. They're not chasing like, oh, this is what I really want to look like. Like what I mean by this, and I'm just using this as one tiny
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
When people come to me and they say I want to lose weight, I go, okay, if you had like the most ideal body, like what does the most ideal body look like? Like a celebrity, like pick anyone. And they have no idea what they want this body to look like. They just don't want it to be theirs.
Ah, that's
And
a
so
good
it's
way
like
to say that. Yeah.
you're not really like don't get me wrong, they're not always looking for fear because like after they come out of that, they're just like, oh, like now I want this to look like this and this to look like this, and like then they get an idea of like what it's like to not live in fear. But until you take people out of fear, like they're always going to be controlled by something, and it's like an addiction. It's people have so much fear, and like don't get me wrong, I had the most fear. Oh my god, I was the most scared person. I've always been. My dad actually had mentioned something to me the other day, and he was like, he was kind of mad at me, and it was because like he was scared of something and I wasn't, and I was like trying to tell him that there's no, it's fake, it's a facade, it's not real. This fear
Hmm.
is in your head. And he like thought I was being a dick, and I'm like, no, 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 like I'm trying to free you of this, and I'm trying to like show you. And he was like, you've never been really afraid of anything, like that's not fair for you to say. So like, I'm not you. And I was like, no, 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 no,
Yeah, you
no.
think I've never been afraid?
I think I've never been. I'm afraid right now. I'm always afraid. And
Uh-huh.
actually, what helped me like be okay with this one that I am was more afraid than like almost anybody, even though I was so capable. One of the one of the military leaders that I know, God, he's a great leader. He does an amazing job. And I've seen how he does with like his kids too. And then just like people in the community around us. So like not only what he does in the army and then special forces, but like what he does in just life in general. Great fucking leader. And I had asked him one day how he got through some of the missions that he had told me about. And I was like, how are you not scared? And he was like, oh, you think I wasn't scared? Silly. He goes, I'm the most scared. I know everything that could happen. I'm the
Hmm.
most scared.
Like aware of the consequences. Yeah.
I'm the most scared all the time. The only difference is that I will stand up tall no matter if I'm scared or not. And
Shoulders
I was
down
like,
back.
damn. And he was trying to tell me too, like, dude, you do the same thing. Like, you're not, like, you're a brave little fucker. You're strong as hell. And I couldn't really hear it because I couldn't really accept myself to be that just yet. But you know, the most brave people, like, will tell you that they're scared all the time.
Well, that is
And
bravery, right?
that
Like,
is bravery.
it's
You're just,
not that you're not afraid, it's that you act despite your fear.
Mhm.
That's true courage, true bravery.
Yeah. And so getting rid of this fear in people is like, you know, we always want to tell people what to do and like how to live and how to be, because that's what we're paid to do as coaches. But I think that what's helped me the most in showing people what's going on and having them really truly break free of like the sources of everything is what my friend had told me. Like, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do. All you have is this second right here. And if you are trying to think about everything that was before or after, you're not here. You don't have that second anymore. And so it's like you're spending so much of your life fucking worried about nothing that's coming. And instead, you can't even enjoy like the small good things or even the big things that are happening in your life because you're so worried about whatever. And like, it's
Yep.
silly. You just look silly to me because you're so smart. And I was like, I just had to sit with it for like a long time. And I would think of this in like random times of the day for months on end. There's nothing to do, there's nowhere to go. And I was so like this just debacle in my head all the time. Like, there's everywhere to go. There's nowhere to go. There's everywhere to go. There's nowhere to go. And I truly, you know, like once you can get to a point where every single second you are living in just the second that's happening in front of you
Yep.
with your best intentions in mind, and you can talk to yourself with, you have integrity to talk to yourself from a very honest perspective and not a shameful perspective. Like, you're not bad because you did something. It's just like it happened. What next? Like, okay, what do you do from here? Like, you're here. What do you do? Uh, and as soon as you can take that like shameful scornness that a lot of us have for ourselves off of your back, the world is yours. You
Oh
don't need
yeah.
to be afraid of it anymore. You don't need to be afraid to fail. You don't need to be afraid that all of this is just going to come tumbling down. You don't need to be afraid that your marriage is going to end. You don't need to be afraid that your kids are going to be hurt. You don't need to be afraid that you're never going to live up to your potential. You don't need to be afraid that like you're going to, you know, have all these injuries that define you forever and you're going to die early from heart disease. Like, people that are unhealthy are very aware of it. They can't not be. They literally watch other people like you and I who move about the world so freely, and they're like, I can't even imagine what they feel like. They literally will say, I can't imagine being able to do that. I can't run a mile. I can't this. I can't that. I can't whatever. And you're like, but you can. You just can't do it right now.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Just not yet. Right.
you know, just not yet. And it's really important to for me to understand that like there is actually nothing to do when it comes to telling people what to do. There is like, it's a kind of a, you know, it's a little bit of both sides. I can't think of the word I'm trying to think for it, but it's like there's nothing to tell them that they need to do. You can give them tangible things to like help them with their health. You can give them a tangible outlines to help them, but really all you need to do is take away the fear that they have of failing and put it in front of their face that like, hey, what's stopping you is not you. Or I'm sorry, is not like everything around you. What's stopping you is not your parents or your significant other or even your children that take up most of your time. What's stopping you is you. And you just use all those things as an excuse. And like my favorite thing that people say to me is, I don't have time. And I'll go,
I don't even
if
know what
you
that
want to know
means.
somebody that doesn't have time, nice to meet you. I'm Isabella. And I not only don't have time because I fill my time with everything, but I literally don't know time. Anyone that knows me, that closely knows me, will tell you I don't have any conceptual understanding of time.
Oh, I almost never know what day it is. And yesterday I was in class and I went up to one of the members. I was like, "Hey, is this the 8:45?" And they thought that I was messing with them.
Are you
And
joking?
they're like, "No, this is the 10 a.m." I was like, "Is it really?" I'm like, "Okay, cool." I know I just did the 8:45, but I have no
No,
concept
no concept.
of
Like,
where
if
I
the
am.
sun is up, the sun is up. The sun's going down. I kind of know what time it is. If it's
Yeah,
not,
right. That's
I
really
kind of know it's night. Like, and the reason for that is like I have some theories, but like I actually remember my dad. That was one of the times that my dad did get like pretty strict with me. my ever loving dad that like when he would finally lose his patience, that's what I remember. He was trying to teach me time. We were camping here and he was trying to teach me time and I was laying in a hammock and he was like, 60 seconds is a minute. And I was like, this means nothing to me. And he was like, 60 minutes is an hour. And I was like, but I don't understand like how much time is an hour. And he was like, I'm telling you,
Mm-hmm.
60 minutes or 60 seconds is a minute, 60 minutes or an hour. And I like could not grasp what that might look like in time and space. Like
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't, I mean, I was little then, but I still like, dude, I have no idea what time it is. And if I mean to be there, like I will never be early, probably, maybe. If I am, it's on accident. But
Uh-huh.
like I used to be mad at myself for this, but like it's not a bad thing. You do need to respect other people's time, and like that is
Definitely.
something that I think everyone, like you have to respect other people's time. The world doesn't revolve around you, but like I don't want to know time. I don't. I have no interest in it. For what? To play into what? Like, technically, we have 13 months in a year. None of us go off of the real calendar, that is. And, like, I could tell you about that forever, but people, like, a lot of people aren't ready to hear that. But it's like, we don't even keep the right calendar. What the fuck do I give about this 24 hours for? So I can communicate to you that we're going to do something at the same time? Sure. I'll play with that. Like, I know that I need to be to my clients at X time, X time, X time, X time.
Right. Sure. There's utility in that.
But other than that, like I ain't got a fucking worry in the world, dude. I wake up when I want to wake up. There's so much freedom in that. I go to bed when I want to go to bed,
Mm-hmm.
and I still have to see people like in person. I still have to do work. It's not that I don't have any responsibility, but it's that I shape the responsibility around my life. I really advocate for people quitting their 9 to 5s, but like I know people are really mad at me for that because they think it's like absurd of me saying like you can create your own schedule, you can actually do that, you can do it whenever you want to do it, nobody's going to stop you except for you. And people get really upset because they like want to do it but they don't know how. One day I'll create something. I don't like all those entrepreneur like courses, I don't like all
Mm.
that like I'm a business coach's business coach and like I don't want to do all that, but like I will say I will create something tangible for at some point for people to understand how to pull out of like a corporate sector if they want to. I don't think
Sure.
it's for everyone. But I think a lot of people, if you really look at Americans and the American spirit, like people really want to do their own things. They want to have a trade. They want to have their own business. They want to have ownership of something. They want to be proud of something that they created. And it's like, well, that's capitalism. Like, that's actually capitalism. That's
Right.
not the capitalism we have now. Like, where,
Right.
robber barons are pretty much everywhere and we can't avoid it. But it's like, if we could all do that, if we could all have the confidence that like we could produce the food, we could do this, we could produce the services, we could do it. Like, what are they? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unnecessary.
And that's it. It's stupid. But
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of control that people keep over themselves. Like that's what I was saying in the beginning. Like people blame it. They want to blame it on their senator. They want to blame it on their politician. They want to blame it on whoever. Big corporations, big this, big that. And I don't know if you read that Substack, but
Oh,
like
I read it.
what I was trying. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It was like it's not us against the government. It's not even us against the big corporations, dude. It's us against you. Like it's yourself against you.
Yeah. 100%.
That's all it is.
Yeah. No, it really is. And like, when I wanted to start this podcast, you know, I thought about some of the same things you did in terms of putting myself out there. Like I very much despise the influencer label. Like that was not something I was aspiring to be. But at the same time, I also am putting myself out there. I think I wouldn't have started the podcast if I didn't think there was some value to it. Obviously, I know that when you start anything, it's not as good as it will be
Yeah.
later on. And so having to come to terms with that, it's like you're going to put something out that you know is not going to be perfect because it's
Yeah.
your first time doing it. And
That's
so like,
hard.
yeah, coming to terms with that, you're just like, this sucks. But I figured because in the same way, what you're trying to do is it's just build a community.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the best way to sort of make changes, invite people to talk about their ideas. Because even, I'm on the podcast. There's not, billionaires or, whatever. These are just like, average,
But
quote
that's
unquote
what
people.
matters.
That's
Like
what
that's what
matters.
matters.
Exactly. And maybe they're working on something and
Yeah.
they're talking through their idea on the
Hmm.
show. And
Yeah.
we just get to have that conversation and they get to talk out
Yeah.
within a little bit more detail out loud and outside of their head. And maybe then they pursue it a little bit more. And so that's like kind of my hope
Yeah.
with this whole thing is that,
No, and that exactly like what you wanted for it has helped me. Not and it's silly because like it was actually really cool. You had told me that like I was one of the first people that you had thought of before
mhm.
you created this, and I was like, me, little me. And it's so
Well,
funny
because we
because
don't even know each other that well. I mean, I
right,
feel
right,
like I
we
know you a
don't
lot
like
better now,
we
but
worked together very shortly and like very
uh-huh.
successfully, and it was like cool, and we kind of knuckle punched, and we were always busy, but like that was it. And so, but you kind of like when you get
Yeah,
that feeling of like this person's safe, this person's doing this for a good reason, and like this is the community that I want to keep. Doesn't matter if it's the one that I've already kept or not. Like this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be around. And I truly think, and like you had asked me to do this a while ago, and then we kind of like kept putting it off, but it wasn't like us putting it off. It just like wasn't happening yet.
right.
And I always knew that like it will happen whenever you're both ready for it to happen. And then like that will just kind of unfold naturally. And it did.
And
When
that's
you,
literally what I sent you on Instagram. I was like, hey, don't worry, we'll get it
yeah,
done. I'm not concerned about
it's okay.
it. Uh-huh.
But you had told me that, and I was like, oh my God, like not only do people want to be a part of this, and like not only do people want to like the services of it, and like whether it's my for profit or not for profit, but like they just want to get to know me. And I was like, I'm so confused, because you really like when you hold a personality that's for everyone, like when you're like your whole existence is basically holding space for other people, you kind of have like a dissolving of yourself. You
Mhm.
have to like there's really no choice, and either you do it in a really unhealthy way, which a lot of us accidentally do, especially in the very beginning, or you like learn to and you stay that way forever, or you learn to like really hold your ground and really like make a space for yourself so that you can make a bigger space for them. And something I really struggled with is that people really want to get to know me lately, and like that's because everyone feels like they have a stage now, and like
Mm.
it's I'm not here to judge like who should have a platform and who shouldn't. I'm not here to censor that. I'm not here to like negate anyone and say that I'm better than them. I can just say like this is where I've been. This is what I can give you. But I do think that there's a lot of fluff that I really wish like people could discern against, because although they're well-intentioned fluff, they're still fluff, and they will lead you in very dangerous ways, and they will lead you out of their own fear, and that's not somewhere you want to be led. And so it's like knowing that I know how to lead, and having so many people recognize that, knowing that I know how to lead out of like love and not fear, like and having everyone recognize that was like, okay, well, I'm good at my job. You know what I mean? Like I'm good at what
Sure. Yeah. Some necessary validation.
right. But then it started to become, and it's actually more than the last like 2 months here, that people are like, hey, like I actually want to hear where you came from. And I'm like, really? Like I don't think much of it, it's cool. I've been told since I was little that eventually there would probably be a book about me, and I was like, I almost just passed it off as this like stupid thing. And I never thought like who am I to there's a book about me, like who gives a shit.
Hmm.
um but no, there's something very powerful in like, regardless of what you think of me or regardless of what experience you've had with me, like anybody has had with me, there is something very powerful about having almost no self identity as a child, being shamed for the little bit of identity that you did have, and then going into foster care, and then watching the people closest to you that were like parents, your grandparents, like
Mm.
totally just wither away in those gruesome ways, slowly. Um, and then hope that they come out of a coma and then know it's not going to happen. Like it just kind of like all dissolves in front of you. Um, going to DC, like while that was a cool career and all, like, and we had a kid, and then we didn't. And, like there's so much loss in that story. And
Hmm.
like everyone else would see that that is like a horror story, like unfolding. That's just like a terrible, not fun life. And I can sit here before you and tell you that there is so much beauty in all those experiences. And that's
Oh, I
really
love it.
hard. But like, there's so much beauty in that. And then not only that, I've gotten to see some parts of the world that most others will never even touch. And like, God, I'm glad they won't. I'm really glad that they won't see all that. It's not for everyone, but like, because it's a lot to swallow. It's a lot, and it's really hard truths of like our socioeconomics and our political structure and like just the world that we exist in. But like, even that, I can see all the beauty in that. And I can see all the beauty and like all that pain that comes from politics in DC and like all the splitting of our world and the splitting and the dividing of our country. Like I can see how beautiful that is and how I know it will come together.
It will.
Um,
I agree.
but it can't come together until we are more connected. And I really, I say I hope, but like I know on this journey, like that's what this is. I know that creating a community for people to go to, asking them nothing in return, will eventually pay off for the collective psyche. Um, and if no one else to teach it, like I hope that I will have other coaches write articles with me and do this and be a platform, like be a coach on the platform. And I won't do this alone. And I know I won't do it alone, but like like you don't want to ask people to let you work for free. You know what I mean? It's just like, I know that whoever comes will come and they'll
Right.
help me with this. And I know that over the span of time, we will help tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands. And then the doctors that I service, like they will help all their patients, and like everyone, as much as they will feel better about themselves, will help the next person. And like, while I don't want to get into religion because I'm actually not religious, I just have studied a lot of religions. Like that's literally the pinnacle of Christ consciousness, is that
Mm.
you hold so much love for yourself that you can't help but like, whether it's
It
conscious
overflow
or
to others.
unconscious, it will overflow. That was what I was trying to like explain with the cup earlier, but I couldn't really figure out how to say it.
All
And I was like,
good.
the cup, and I told you like, oh, I'll figure it out when I figure it out. It's literally like, it's like, never mind where it's pouring from. Somebody that does NASA intelligence, fucking NASA level intelligence, explain this to me. This is something, never mind what's overflowing the cup or where this is coming from, but like, just say this is on the table, right? So we'll just put it on, like, say this is right here, and you have something pouring into it. Never mind where it's coming from, where it is. Eventually, it has to fill,
Hmm.
unless you poke a hole in it. Then, like then it's just gonna pour out before it fills up. And you want to patch all your holes, and you want to make sure that you're filling your cup. And once your cup is all the way filled, like where you think that others will not benefit from it, because like where we poke holes in our cup is like, oh no, I have to do this for so and so. It's fear. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to help so and so. They're gonna die without me. Basically, like, that's what we're scared of. We're scared of other people suffering, and so we'll like put out before we can even like give all to ourselves. But if you just patch all those holes, ignore it for a little bit, and then your cup is filled, eventually this cup has no choice. Like, what's going to happen? It's going to spill over.
Right.
And what's going to happen when this flows? It's going to spill over, and it's going to spill over, and it's going to keep spilling over. And then eventually it's a flood. And it's like, well, what happens when a flood happens? Everything rises.
Yeah.
Everything.
The rising tide raises all ships.
Dude, it's crazy. I
Yeah.
will say, with the rising tide too, I will say the one thing the water taught me too is that you think of like the deepest, this is how they make really big boats. This is how they make like the Titanic and all this. This is how they engineer them. They engineer them so that they can dive down really deep into these waves and split them. Like we've all seen it, like
Yeah.
that shit going into water. But if you've ever, you can take this on the micro scale instead of the macro. It's not the deepest blue seas. Like just imagine yourself standing on a shore and you're like waist deep or whatever in water, and a big wave comes and you stand there sturdy as ever. Like you're like nothing, no human could knock you down in this, and you're sturdy facing it. Dude, it's gonna put you on your ass.
Hmm.
But if you dive into it,
Yep.
you're gonna come out further ahead, and but to be able to dive into it, like you have to truly convince yourself that you have no fear. And you can't do anything until you do that, or else you're just gonna keep getting whoosh, whoosh,
I
whoosh.
think that's a perfect metaphor. And unfortunately,
Yeah, we're
that's
about
we're about at time. Isabella, wow, what a journey.
Thank you
um,
so much for having me.
oh my gosh, we talked
I
about
really
so
enjoyed
much,
doing.
and I still have a million things I want to talk about. So we don't have to set a date, but would you be down to do this again sometime?
Yeah, let's do it again. Uh,
Okay, cool.
do you have
I,
any short questions that I can answer real quick before we go?
on top of my head,
Down. Do it later.
if you had one phrase for people trying to get after it today, what would you tell them?
Use your freedom to keep your freedom.
Boom. And if you haven't, you want to plug a couple things real quick? Substack, Instagram, any of that?
Yeah, so my Instagram, my personal is Coach Vercetti, Vercetti. And then my for profit company is The People I Grow. And then the Average Foundation is We Are the Average AVG on Instagram. We Are the AVG. And the website that you can go and get programs from and start in on the community is changeyouraverage.org. I don't really care to plug the for profit company, like whatever. If I
All
decide that
good.
they can go there, they can go there. But like funneling through TAF, the Average Foundation is we need people, we need coaches, we need writers. I have doctors writing stuff for us and all that, but like I really want coaches. I want people
Mm.
that are like want to be leaders in this. So anybody that would like to be a part of that, that would be really cool. You can either send me an email or you could just go on to, we are changeyouraverage.org. Send me a DM, whatever. If you want a program, cool, whatever. But all in all, like this community is going to shape itself. And the only way to do that is to get involved. And so it's like, if you're scared to be a teacher, if you're scared to be a coach, but you really want to do that, I have the time and patience to teach you what you need to know. So long as you've got that true passion and true drive. And so coaches, whether you're new or not, like go for it. I would say find what you love doing, and like if anyone can, if you can find it through like free services for a little bit before you navigate the for-profit world, I would recommend that. So you don't have to do all the hard shit first and learn all the hard ways on your own dime. But yeah, so the Average Foundation and then my for-profit company will probably never stop taking coaches and clients. Will only get bigger. I'll probably pause my for-profit for just a little bit so I can do this. And yeah, YouTube, I have no idea when that's going up.
Yeah, you and me both.
I don't
Um,
know.
well,
I'll figure it
cool. Excellent. Thank you so much. We're definitely going to do this again. Everyone, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.